do you mind if I stood up? Because I feel awkward when I sit down and talk. My students will realize that. Well, distinguished colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen, as Dr. Gülhak has already said, it's been 1 week since the activities of this department, which is actually Department of American Studies, but officially Department of Culture and Literature, American Culture and Literature, celebrating, in a way, the 10th anniversary of its official establishment. Because this department actually did exist even before that, but it got its name in 1982 when the reorganization of all universities, including faculty departments, took place. Now, the birth of this department was when the Department of English Language and Literature at the University started in 1965, even before the university was established. And American literature was taught as individual courses within the Department of program of the Department of English Language and Literature. But these courses started to develop, and the interest of the students was so great that we increased the number of these courses within the program. And in 1982, we had the opportunity to found a real American Studies program. Since then, this department started to grow and grow rapidly. Not only as far as the number of the students is concerned, but as far as the development of the program and training the young teaching assistants as future scholars. And now I can see in front of me several of those scholars. And of course, all this is thanks to the collaboration of all the members of the Department of American Studies, English, and Linguistics Department. Our first head of the department was Professor Saadet Bozkurt, who worked very hard in order to give a shape to this department. Later on, when she moved over to the Bilkent University, the brotherly or sisterly university over the side, I use it in double meaning, because we are actually, Bilkent and Hacettepe are one. We have no such differentiation as that, or rivalry rather. We have competition, but not rivalry. Anyway, after Professor Saadet Bozkurt moved over there, Professor Gönül Uçede, she took it over. And since then, she has been trying very hard to develop this department, the program, and invite guests here from especially America. And I must put a word or two for the USIS. The USIS, you know, of course, United States International Information Service. It should be international, anyway. It did help us a lot in providing not only material or books themselves, but providing us with very distinguished scholars. And the Fulbright School, the Fulbright Commission also helped us a lot, and I want to put a word of thanks to the General Secretary of the Fulbright Commission, Professor Ersin Onurra. With the aid and the contribution of both sides, this department developed very quickly. And now we are very, very proud of having such a department, including local and otherwise faculty members. And as you, especially the students and my colleagues, do remember, in the last few years, we have been, especially the head of the department, Professor Uche, has been very keen on bringing here scholars, writers, creative writers, or speakers who may be available in Europe or America to speak to us, to talk to us, so that we have sort of novel ideas. We have new approaches. We have many sided views on topics we know or we don't know. And thanks to this effort and the effort of all the members of the department, today we are celebrating the 10th anniversary. And how much we are pleased, all of us, I'm sure, by having such a very distinguished colleague from Buffalo University, not only Professor Landry, but through him we got to know a very distinguished creative writer, poet actually. Poet as Mr. Robert Freely, who was among us and whom you've been listening to in the last few days. Robert Freely needs us to, of course, introduce. You know him by now very well. He is in charge of the poetry department, I believe, Buffalo. And Buffalo is not only because of Professor Landry, but before him we had Professor Lyle Glacier. He was one of those who contributed to the development of the mother department, that is the Department of English Language and Literature. I call it mother because from that department grew up this one, the American Studies, and the linguistics, which each one is standing on its own feet. I don't want really to take more of your time, but again, I would like to thank all the members, staff members, the teaching staff members of the department and the students, because you students are our future. Perhaps you understand this because you know what Atatürk said. The youth, we count a lot on young people in Turkey. And we count a lot on you for furthering not only the American Studies department or the program, but to make use of what you have been learning in the last 3-4 years, 2 years from this department, and diffusing them all over your family, your relatives, your colleagues, Turkey, and outside Turkey. It is not memorization of the text and so on which will help, but thinking and making people think and answering the questions why, who, when, and so on. So I'm sure that this department, with its free thinking and creativity, will be, again, one of the first pioneers in this respect. And I leave the words to my colleague, Dr. Wooten. I think he will tell you who he is. I don't want to introduce him. And thank you all for your patience.
I'm very, very pleased to be here today because my association with this faculty goes back 20 years. I will make my remarks brief, a thing which I know will give great relief to some good teachers because in moments when I become reminiscent about life 20 years ago in this department, I have to tell any discrete stories about your distinguished teachers who are probably not much older than you are now, which distracts from the gravity of their demeanor. In any case, my first association went back to when I was at the University of California, finishing a doctorate in English. And my wife and I came upon a university catalog in the library there for Hajitepa. And in one of those whimsical moments that fate puts before you, we wrote a letter, taking matters directly. We wrote to the rector of the university, asking perhaps there might be a job in the English department. He passed it to his sister. And a memorandum showed it to a Fulbright professor, American Fulbright professor who was there at the time, Sam Basket, saying, in effect, is this guy for real? Why would he want to come teach here? But Sam gave me a clean bill of health, and so I came and spent 2 of my happiest years of our teaching in the English department. And in fact, you might say sort of completed my education in literature, since at least in those days, there was nothing like specialization in teaching, and I think I taught everything except Anglo-Saxon. And so all of those things you sort of flunked over in graduate school, I learned then, keeping a page or two ahead of the students. You wouldn't understand that, but I understand. And after that 2 years, then came my foreign service, but over the years have continued to keep in touch with Hajjat through international meetings and so forth. And usually Hajjat colleague, a great bottle of raka for me for the time's sake. And finally now, after all this time, I'm very happily back again in Turkey. And of course now my office is virtually an adjunct with the English department. Since it was work for Melhan, and sort of all of it work for Melhan. And so you can imagine how pleased I was when David Landry suggested the possibility of bringing Robert Freely here for this program to mark the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the American Culture and Literature Department. We thought it was a wonderful idea, and we're so pleased when she really accepted. I think this is, from all reports, been a wonderful program you've had. I hope that perhaps this may be annualized. And if that's the case, I would like for us to continue to be a partner in helping make that happen. And perhaps Mr. Freely may
Move over to high
raise this, well, but at least perhaps may come back for another time. How's that for being put on the spot? Anyway, we would leave the project, we'd like to stay in partnership with the English department and the English department as a whole, and hope that we can do this on an annual basis perhaps. And if you will in fact establish a creative writing program, that we can be involved in that in some school way. So that said, I would just like to thank you again for having me. And
it's our pleasure.
May I invite the three speakers, please? I would like to welcome all of you once more to share this event with us, and I would really like to thank Professor Dormacı and Mr. Witten for the opening remarks. And you can be sure that we will hold you to your word in the very near future. But also that those of us who were not at the poetry reading yesterday evening will have something background. Mr. Green first, he is the university professor. He is given the title of university professor to honor his distinguished career as poet, fiction writer, essayist, and teacher. Therefore, the State University of New York at Buffalo gave this title to Mr. Freely, and this position entitles him to teach across the curriculum. He is also the founder of the innovative program in poetics at SUNY Buffalo, and in 1987 he was named to the elite American Academy and Institute of Arts and Letters. He has written a novel, The Island, and he has a collection of short stories, The Gold Diggers. Among his collected poems, The Charm for Love, Word, Pieces, A Daybook, Hello, Later, Mirrors, Memory Gardens, Candy Names, and Windows, and most recently he has written a among them are also He was born in England and graduated from the University of Essex and the University of London. And since 1976, he has been living on New York's Lower East Side. He is the author of 3 books of poems and enigma, lyrical poetry, and 21st Love, as well as a book of aesthetics, and extended interview conversations with Rudy Burkhardt, and forthcoming are talking pictures, again with Rudy Burkhardt, and an edition of the selected art writings of James Tyler, very difficult to pronounce. He has taught at New York University, Long Island University, Rutgers University, Stevens Institute of Technology with a poster in Dublin, the New School for Social Research and St. Mark's Poetry Project. He is currently the visiting poet at AKE University, Izmir, where he has been since February, and this is his first visit to Ankara. I'm not going to say anything about Professor Landry, except that he is a dear friend and perhaps one of the best lecturers that we've had since recent years. What this panel or this meeting will be, it will be a sort of a wrap-up session or a jam session, because we have had a very intense week with Professor Freely's talks, workshops, and his readings of poetry. So I just leave the floor over to them, and we'll see what they'll have to come up. Thank you.
Our decision now is, what would you like to do? Or would you like to do?
I can read some poems first, and then we can. No, I don't know. What do you think?
As an invocation.
I mean, yeah. Let me start off by just saying first of all what a pleasure it's been to be here, and I've been here since Wednesday. I missed the first few days of Bob's visit, but the reports I had were quite astonishing, and what I've seen here, truly, I'm not simply saying that as some sort of courtesy. I mean, it's been quite remarkable. The level of energy, the level of interest, the level of communication. My great respect goes out to Hajitepe, David Landry for his organization here, USIS, the university. Truly, it's been quite astonishing experience to see this. I came from yet another conference earlier from Izmir, so I'm sort of a little conferenced out. But so that was the first thing I wanted to say. So thank you very much for making this possible. I mean, it really is quite a momentous occasion. I'm very interested, since I've only been in Turkey now for a month and a half, and the degree of communication between Turkey and American culture, English culture also, is very healthy, this interaction. So, yeah, I certainly just wanted to point that out first. It's been a terrific pleasure. Poetry also, to me, I thought it would be nice to read some poems, because having been around here and sort of somewhat quietly taking it all in, a number of people came up to me and said, you know, you're going to read some poems? Yeah, I'll do that. I promise. When you permit me to see with lucidity my anger, know that it shines straight into your dark forest, cutting through the inadequacies with which we clothe ourselves like brambles, so illuminating that private place, like some good soldier that we call our heart. When you permit me to see with lucidity my anger, know that it shines straight into your dark forest, cutting through the inadequacies with which we clothe ourselves like brambles, so illuminating that private place like some good soldier that we call our heart. It occurred to me that one of the useful things to do in terms of reading your poems is just to sort of clarify things, but then at the same time I'm very interested just in where poetry and music meet, and to some degree I don't know how much explanation I need to make. I was very interested in the idea that Joseph Conrad had of the heart of another person as a dark forest. So I sort of played with that in that novel. I don't know. Why don't I read some poems later? Because it seems to me that we should also sort of gather this in. I wanted to connect very much in terms of what's been happening this week. This week, I mean, I'm very interested in the place of poetry and writing within a university situation. The continuity that we're looking for here. I'll come back with some poems in a minute. I mean, there's a poem. Let me hand over to David, and I'll come back.
Yes. Okay, he'll be back. I met Simon shortly after he'd arrived. We spent a lovely week in Izmir, where I was lecturing at both AKE and Dokuzeli. But we, in the intermediary places, we were talking all the time and discovered that poetry had come in many ways to Turkey. I thought that poem you just read was which I'd never heard before, was a particularly gleaming example of what's been happening all week. And I guess my sense of what I'm doing here this morning is mainly just because I'm not really sure what I'm doing here this morning. And in fact, I'm overwhelmed with the week's activity, and I'm trying to cut through that quality of being overwhelmed and arrive at some sort of clarity. But I expect that may come long after we both leave. At any rate, when we began the week by Bob saying that what happened in poetry after the war, perhaps after the bomb, was that no longer were people searching for a common voice, but were searching to have many voices speaking commonly. I thought that was about as good a keynote statement as could be made. And then, as we progressed towards talking about a writing program and what it would constitute, he began to forward his own poetry and the work of contemporaries, the particular voices that helped change American poetry, like Allen Ginsberg and Frederick Corso, and so forth. After the war, there had been others before, of course. The poetry that he read and discussed and answered to questions from, extraordinary questions from the students here at Harvard was a poetry which undertook to explore the difference between inside and out, I suppose. That's been as much Bob's life as anything else. Here and there, the private self and the public self, the one and the other, and so forth. And that, how does one address that in a world going crazy? You know, I mean, does one really, my inclination is to want to hide away from this work. But the point seems to be quite clearly we can't. We have to stay open to the world, in a phrase Bob used just a couple of days ago. We have to, and our charge seems to be to find some order or orders amidst this terrible confusion. And certainly writing is the way we know best. There are other ways. There are great arts of all kinds, but writing has a way of addressing that relationship of chaos and disorder, or the inchoate state of our mind, and some wish to be planted firmly. Or as Wendell Berry said once, what I stand for is what I stand on. At any rate, what I just heard Simon say so beautifully from memory addresses that issue too, that dark forest and the rest of the world, one's own anger at the condition of things, but if that anger simply dominates, we fly apart, we disintegrate. So a writing program might be the answer. And of course, the point early made was that it can't be a creative writing program. We have to dump that word creative. On the assumption either that A, we're all creative, or we're nothing. We were, after all, created, and we go on creating, or we wouldn't continue the race. But that what we must address is the way in which our words reach out to everything around us, and it doesn't have to take any particular form. We don't have to simply be writing poems and novels. We need simply to engage in that act of communication. And whatever program we may evolve here, they have brilliantly set up for us the groundwork and possibility for reaching out to the world. So I thought the last thing I might do after that little series of perhaps also inchoate comments, I have thousands of notes here that I could speak from in a moment, is to read, if he doesn't mind, a poem of Robert's that hasn't come up during this weekend that might just throw it open to this jam session that Professor Ruchelli has suggested we might engage in. This is a very moving poem, I suggest, and indeed, here it is. It's called The World. I wanted so ably to reassure you. I wanted the man you took me to be, to comfort you, and got up and went to the window, pushed back as you asked me to, the curtain, to see the outline of the trees in the night outside. The light, love, the light we felt then, grayly was it, that came in on us, not merely my hands or yours, or a wetness so comfortable, but in the dark then as you slept, the gray figure came so close and leaned over between us as you slept restless, and my own face had to see it and be seen by it. The man it was, your gray, lost, tired, bewildered brother, unused, untaken, hated by love and dead, but not dead for an instant, saw me, myself, the intruder, as he was not. I tried to say, it is all right, she is happy, you are no longer needed. I said, he is dead, and he went as you shifted and woke, at first afraid, then knew by my own knowing what had happened, and the light then of the sun coming for another morning in the world. I guess that's a way of turning it over to Bob.
The company has been in every way unique this past week. Generous, specific, caring. I felt truly as at home here in this way as I would in my own home in Buffalo. And I'm far more than impressed, amazed really with the particularity and the compassion really all of you have shown. Yesterday, just after the meeting, I love the grouping together for classic photographs, and I love the terrific pun I made unintentionally when I said trying to make some final sense of American character and using my old friend and dear fellow poet Charles Wilson's quotation, all my life I've heard that one makes money, and I had meant to say one makes many. The motto is e pluribus unum, out of many one. I've tried all my life to reverse the process, out of one many. Again, why I feel that so insistently is because the curious generalization of us into a category or a collection of this kind to me is finally destructive. Simply that it loses our particularity. Again, what's been such a delight, even in this very brief time, is to recognize and have even that fragile and brief experience of the ways in which people, you all here are, specifically here. everything from food to gesture to characteristics, smiling to the extraordinary grouping and good nature you bring as a company. The way you care for each other, which is so obvious, whether it be trudging about the hills of Cappadocia with a charming bunch of 10-year-old, 8-year-old schoolboys, or as yesterday in these rooms talking and being in that brief but absolutely dear sense with you. The possibility is I've variously spoken of it during the week, is simply to have an agency that can use the function of writing in the most diversely applicable way possible. Not that such a program need lack a core or a center, or that it be simply diffuse in what it best defines or applies to, or rather that it not overly confine itself by its own definition. So that again was why I was so emphasizing the sense of a writing program that could attend and or admit a diversity of those functions which writing permits or has to do with. Could for example involve, as you have now here, a translation. The Department of Translation could involve that information and could find a company with that, etc. Linguistics, but would always be from the point of view or from the situation of writing as a human enterprise, a human conduct, a human agency of communication, etc. Which would therefore be, in some sense, a bridging and an accommodating center that could serve to move across lines of present speciality and present concentration. Obviously, for example, within the various language groups, I've often been frustrated teaching over the years. But for example, study of say the modern period, as it's called in American or English literature, could not comfortably deal with the modern period in other cultures and national groups. The nearest one could come to it would be comparative literature, which has had, if you think of the conduct of that circumstance in American universities, it has really not done all that well, so to speak. Seemingly it frustrates those who want a more defining category. It's been for years felt a bit suspiciously because of its bridging qualifications. Those to me are its absolute virtue. In any case, I felt that writing could serve that interest among many others. And again, I must compliment you, congratulate you in a very specific way that your particularities, people, students, and the way you bring your own energies and inquiry to the company are, to my mind, exceptional, really as exceptional as I've ever met. So you should recognize someone truly coming from outside this particular country. You must recognize your own authority. It's very specific and it's very powerful and it's very unifying in the most happy sense. It makes you specific and dear people, whatever comes of anything. That you can depend upon, and that you should be aware of, that you constitute an extraordinary group of human beings. God bless you, as we say in the Christian tradition. In any case, I bless you.
And also, at some point, the purpose of this panel right from the beginning was to invite the participation of the assembled multitude. So when that should happen, we'll leave it to chance, I suppose. But anytime anyone wants to jump in, I'm sure we'll all welcome it and respond accordingly, like throwing things.
And another thing, it was amazing how many students contributed in their different fields of interest, trying to write their own poems, their own short stories, and their own plays. I think it was an amazing thing for people who had no formal courses in writing. We do have composition, but not in the sense that we plan this program to be established in the future.
I think my experience in museum is curious in this respect that I forget that this is composition creativity in the second language. I mean, I don't forget. But so the innovation that can take place when a writing program is working is again very healthy. It's very pleasant to see poems, sophisticated poems in English. I mean, I'm looking through what students' work I have in museum. I'm looking through the materials come from Hacettepe. I'm in no way being patronizing when I say that it knocks me out, some of the material that comes through. For example, I just recently saw this wonderful play of 4 voices, no more than 4 voices, 50 voices from Prufrock's, from Eliot's Prufrock. I'm going to be in it. Tune in. I mean, I cite that as an example of to me, remarkable freedom within the language, within the possibilities of the language, within making poetry, which I take my hat off to. I don't mean to overpitch this by making the point, but I would second what Bob has just said, that it is truly quite remarkable. I have not had that experience in the
I should elaborate on that just a little bit. This little play to which he refers, some people in here, of course, already know, but it was written in response to an assignment to write about the love song of Gail for Prufrock, and what Venus did was not just do that, but in fact write a play with all these voices using the language, and her own language as well. But just a list of the characters will tell you something. The characters are first person, the poet, again, enough, second woman, first woman, second person, love. These are the characters in the play, you know, not the concept.
You spoke.
Are there any questions, or maybe I'll read a poem? Use it as a punctuation.
I don't know. There is this afternoon. Oh, yeah, we should actually mention some of the schedule here this afternoon. At what, 1:30?
1:30, we're going to have 3 plays by faculty and by students. One is a recorded play which takes about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. And the other 2 short poems, and the voices will be David and Simon. They will be reading the 5 voices of love poem, Love Song of Alfred. So those of you who are interested, if you're here around 1:30, we'll go through that.
Yes. Where is that taking place?
Here.
Right here in the same place? Okay. It does depend in part on the interview that Bob.
That's not until later.
That's at 4, yeah. So we can probably fit all these things in, and then let it rip some questions first. Yeah. Incidentally, this is since we're on scheduling, this activity was preceded by a marvelous phone conversation that was beamed out from the United States thanks to USIS, and I don't know how they ever get these things together, and everything worked, you know, the telephones worked, nobody got cut off. It was maybe, that doesn't happen when I make a call across town. With Bob Creedy and Bob Bertholf and Ed Foster. And that was all preparatory, of course, to this activity. But then next, on May 11th, Robert Bertholf, who's the curator of the poetry collection in Buffalo. We keep saying Buffalo, but there's a good reason for that. It's a great place to be. It's also the world's largest collection of modern poetry, and he will be here on the 11th, 12th, and 13th to speak in various ways, and you'll hear about that when the schedule gets formed. And then at the end, at May 18th, I think it is, beginning a similar cycle to this, Ed Foster, who's the editor of Talisman magazine and who has been here many, many times. And I think this is really his preferred home. I said last night, nobody comes to Turkey just once. So that will happen beginning May 18th. So this is part of an ongoing activity to address, not just to display poetry, for heaven's sakes, to the world, but to address the problems that poetry is addressing. This is, poetry is nothing if it's not significant in our lives.
One thing very useful, Bob Bertolf is literally the curator or the director of the poetry collection, the rare books collection at the State University of New York at Buffalo. And he's part of his information and ability is bibliography and his access to one of the most extensive bibliographical source materials probably in the world is also a very useful fact. So that what I'm trying to emphasize or say is that the rapport connection thus with Hacettepe University is again useful simply that it can depend upon Robert Bertolf and our poetics program. He's one of the core faculty of that group also for useful bibliographical backup of that sort. If you want information in this contemporary world, at least, there are happily simple ways to get it by fax or by whatever. That context can be quickly discovered and implemented for your own interest. But that's something that when Bob is here, you can hopefully discuss with him more at length. A phrase of Louis Zukowski's, that great poet, stays in mind consistently in the last few years, simply a phrase which says, the more so, all have it. And this certainly has to do with these sources of information. The collection that David describes is absolutely one of the great modern collections in the world. Its holdings are incredible. We had visiting graduate student applicants in the last few weeks, and I was hearing later from a colleague about when they had seen the portfolio of Shakespeare's and James Joyce's manuscript for Finnegan's Wake, and so we began to get a little, or not only first edition, but manuscript material for the audit, we begin to be a little impressed that Buffalo, despite its battered state, has succeeded with glory. Anyhow, Bob will be here to tell you more of those circumstances. He's a great lover of winning publication. Very frustrated. He's an old, dear factual teacher. Since he's been at Buffalo, his primary work has been in the collection, which he's continued to expand and refine with great brilliance. However, I'm sure he'll enjoy it. He will love you, people, believe me. He loves to teach, not just to wave his finger in the air, but he loves that rapport. In Buffalo, he doesn't really get as much as he likes.
Just as a continuation of this forthcoming events, as it were, Ed Foster, just to make a few words about that. It's a curious thing about Ed Foster, my experience of him, is the remarkable eclectic range and variety of interests, which again seems to be very pertinent to what we're talking about in terms of writing. The writing isn't simply creative writing in some very narrow sense, but it's vast possibilities of what is important. I first came across him when I was invited to teach in the Stevens Institute of Technology there across the water in New York, which is a technology institute. And I was one in a series of poets who had been invited to speak to the technologists, technocrats. And this program, whereby completely false definition that science and the arts are in some sense antagonistic. This was a very practical way, mixing of those spirits. And I learned an immense amount from the students, and I hope vice versa. And this seems to me, in the context of where it is with Hacettepe right now, with the situation, but to have someone like Ed Foster, and Bob Bertha, Bob Creeley, it's a wonderful beginning to this program. I mean, in just the sense of range, you know, that it's not simply a narrow range, that there's any number of possibilities. And information is, of course, a very important point. I mean, how do you get to know? How do you get to know? And Ed Foster is, I think, quite rare in this respect. His range, his interests are very various, and yet very serious, very fixed. So this program seems to have a shape to it. I don't know whether it was intended that way, but it's very pertinent, I think.
He also had, he's moving Talisman in many directions. One of them is towards translation. I mean, he's doing literatures from all over the world, and is eager to do more of that. So those of you who are writing, send it off.
It's been sadly the case in the United States that translation as a professional activity has had remarkably little support or recognition. That is, the professional translator will be paid a fee, and there were times will get a percent of the sales of monies, et cetera, but there is very little support for projects, for instance, translation projects that do not have the commitment of the publication. Only recently for the grants, the National Endowment for the Arts grants moved to include the activity of translation as a legitimate grant project. Before that, they had been at best marginal and had come under the general category of fiction or poetry, etc. So that only slowly the agencies of translation are getting the backing, one wants to call it, or the grant support, or the foundation support that the translation crucially needs. So that too becomes a common cause, if you see. That you in Turkey and ourselves in the United States, and increasingly large interest, can move to the common need of having active exchange of literatures and information of this sort. It does. I was very moved by the translation given last evening, and an exceptional translator.
This is Tal Halman's translations of Yunus Emre. I mean, Tal Halman as a conduit, as a moving between American culture and Turkish culture seems to me astonishing range of achievement. It's a beautiful book of his translations of Yunus Emre.
Simon, did perhaps mention the New York activity that he was sponsoring?
Well, so much.
Remember you said there was a conference in New York in all the translation?
Yeah, some years ago now, in 1980 something, maybe 1970 something, myself and some other poets put together an organization called the Committee for International Poetry, and we would bring over poets from various cultures and make various poetry events, bilingual poetry events, and largely through Tal Halman's extraordinary energy and knowledge and devotion, that's no other word for it, we were able to put on a quite remarkable festival of Turkish poetry in New York City, in Manhattan. He came to read. Another translator of the works of Orhan Veli, a man by the name of Murad Najat, was equally helpful actually in terms of allowing us to make this event. So there's, for me in Turkey, as a matter of fact, I was very interested, obviously, when I came here in Turkish poetry, and from Ottoman and onwards. And this whole issue of translation, of what is available for, sadly don't speak Turkish, read Turkish yet. And so I was forced to deal with what was available in English. And actually there's more than one might think. And sort of 70% of it is translated by Tal Halman. But no, there's a lot of miscellaneous poets. There's a lot of great poetry and great Turkish writing that hasn't come over yet, and of course one really wants to hear it, wants to read it. Of the two 20th century poets that I'm most familiar with, I mentioned this to several people over the weeks. Orhan Veli has been translated both by Talat Halman and indeed by Murat Ahmedinejad. He seemed like a small world. And actually, I think, correct me otherwise, but I think somewhat successfully. I do get a sense of how curious and how quirky and what that poetry is. The other poet who I can respect, but I don't think I can get in that way from the English, is Nazim Hikmet. If I read another language, shouldn't be knocking the translators here. What happens in the translation of Nazim Hikmet is that the content comes through. The subject matter comes through. But what exactly is happening with the Turkish language, what the whole awful lot doesn't come through, of course. It enters this whole question about how difficult it is to translate, which again comes back to my respect for Talat Halman. Just a remarkable ability as a poet to translate poetry. As I say, I think that his achievement is quite astonishing. But so anyway, we had an event there in New York where, to some degree, was able to sort of bring to people's attention the variety of Turkish poetry that exists. But there's still plenty of work to do. This is why this question of translation that way around is really important, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I was going to mention Japan.
Yes, indeed.
But there is another thing about Talat Halman. He actually translated several of Shakespeare's plays into Turkish, and his translation of all Shakespeare's sonnets into Turkish is just something remarkable.
In rhymes as well?
Exactly, and you think that Shakespeare wrote in Turkish. So he is very exceptional.
No, one is clearly, and yeah. Japan also, you pointed out to me from the floor.
We have new ones also coming up. I think Oya, she knows, she has several other friends, new contemporary Turkish poets and so on, and they are translating their own poems into English. And that is something new which may contribute to this activity.
I hope so.
There's a very good translation periodical, Etkinlikleri, which is published in Istanbul. There are very good translations from Turkish to English in the back issues of Etkinlikleri. Very good translation.
And there is another poet, and bir Kolingo foundation, Aradan. I'm sure you must have
Indeed, yeah, of course. I'm not mentioning all the names, I'll take it too long. But indeed.
I was hoping that he would come up with it. About himself.
First of all, there's going to be any sort of creative activity in the future, either in Turkish or English. I very much contribute to anything I'm still on. But as far as the next chapter is concerned, I'm afraid it's going to be published only one or two more issues this year. And if we can collect some signatures or just ask them, they can perhaps continue, because it's the only one and only translation magazine in Turkey.
Excuse me, Turkish Pen is also translated.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
they have just
Turkish
started.
to
They have
English,
just
so it
started.
doesn't ask you
My concern is that there'll be some sort of centering of this. There's a lot of great work, it seems to me. It's a question of somebody bringing it all together.
Well, also making it available to the rest of the world. I take it these magazines don't get far beyond the borders, and they should,
I think, for example, the previous Russia, the previous Soviet, I remember talking to Evgeny Yevtushenko about the range and authority of institutional support for translation in every respect, for translation from Russian into other languages, from translation of other languages into Russian. I had met from time to time some of the translators less employed. The dilemma was simply that the institutional base began to dilute or generalize the authority of the translation. I remember, for instance, talking to a Latvian friend who was laboriously translating the Latvian text into Russian. And then we met my friend Darian, actually, this extraordinary Moscow writer, Penny Alanga, kind of a terrific conduct, but nonetheless, when she saw what he made of her Russian, then into English, she said, I won't have to work so hard to him because he flattens it out as though we're rolling out bread or something. He makes it all, genial, but by no means specific. So that I think what I'm trying shyly to insist upon is that the authority stay the writing authority, not the sociological authority, not the nationalistic authority, not the institutional authority, but somehow to make even within the institution, make the authority for the qualification of translation and the integrity of translation be the judgment of the literary artist, as an example that translation of the speaking on this instance of the unequivocal authority of that person as a poet. I've read, for example, not Pashtunak, but Mandelstam is a poet. What I can grasp of him, I immensely respect. What I'm frustrated persistently is just that the agency that has made him available in English, however committed, however thoughtful, however knowledgeable, has not made it home. And that is a very severe loss. Now, of course, publishers say, but we have translations of Mandelstam. In fact, there are none. That's a hard dilemma, because that's where the writing program takes home. There is work to do for him.
I suppose it's a question which is in almost everybody's mind, and would be take up the bad job of asking it. When we try to translate from one language to the other, the age-old question of how do you make translation in a language without necessarily carrying over the culture? To put it in another way, should translation work, translation projects be supported by adequate studies on the relevant culture so that the imagery, the meter, the formal elements, etc. can be better appreciated? How do we that concept of different imagery here and then? In order to meet those things, we have to use different imagery there, and are reinforcing Shakespeare into a quality way in something.
That's the very question. For example, I remember reading once a discussion of the translations of Old Mankayan, for example. There was something like 19 extant at the time of this discussion, all of which were both culturally and linguistically more accurate than Fitzgerald's. But Fitzgerald's had taken root like some extraordinary weed, and it could not excise it. For any English-speaking person, Omar Khayyam is that translation. It isn't even a question of whether it's good or bad. It caught that imagination at that time and place. It was an extraordinarily vivid purchase. The point being that the translation depends really upon that exchange, so that the initial text, so to speak, or the original, becomes the material, literally, of the translator, not simply that which is to be conveyed, can't be conveyed verbatim. A parallel going the other way would be Mallarmé's extraordinary translation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, which became a great poem in French tradition for the symbolists, etc. The point being that no American poet had that use of that poem no American poets were impressed by it, that it proved no tradition or no resource. In French, it became this extraordinary basis for a whole possible many poets took off from that pattern that Mallarmé had managed. So that again and again, translation. The point I make is that translation is initialized, not a referential or a secondary act. Translating is initial. For example, our translations in English of Shi King, the great Chinese classics, depend variously upon not Edgar Allan Poe, that would have been terrific, depends upon Edward Pound, Winterberry, etc., Arthur Whaley, and they give us a kind of lovely Edwardian. I mean, Whaley gives extraordinary Edwardian Chinese poetry. But that was what was not only communicable, but that was the point. I think and that too can be imbued with in some respects, obviously has to be imbued with the cultural terms of the original situation. Well, I remember listening to Donald Watson talking about problems of Japanese translation. What could you say in English if the epithet in Japanese were her lovely hair is black as a sea slug? No American reader would, leap with erotic delight if these slugs was so imaged. So that's an endless dilemma. Syntax, all of it. I remember being told by French translators that my poetry is virtually untranslatable into French, not because of its vocabulary, not because of its reference, but because its structure depends upon determined stresses which French does not have. So that you could not translate it if you were to propose it in the pattern of its initial or its original construction. No way. On the other hand, you can't translate it as an effect. You can take what effect it makes and then work to find a dimension parallel. Yeah. But I think it's the errors when one's trying to take one of these and trying to bring it over in some one-for-one pattern.
I'm afraid we're running out of time, but one more question.
I want to ask, do you think there's a possibility to combine languages so that making translations easier?
But it's the particulars in any language that are the qualifier or make the interest. It's what Turkish quote can say that English can't. It really is interesting. And that's what those are the resources that the poet or the writer is particularly attentive to. Whether, for example, the language permits movements or orders of this or that kind. Some of those particularities are extraordinarily dear or valuable to the writer, whether translated or otherwise. That's what gives the language its specific agency and also its historic resonance. It says things that way. So that melding, I remember when I was much younger, that there was, in fact, the persons involved with it much attracted me. And my own introduction to the specificness of words was curiously much intensified by sort of secondary school studies with basic English. This was the proposal of an English vocabulary of 600 words with 200 then additional as that could be also used if was desired. In any case, with these 600 English words, one could say anything in English. So that our teachers would have us translate from James Joyce, I remember, stories, using basic English, translate a section from one of his stories in Dubliners into basic English. It was an extraordinary exercise in recognizing wherein saying the meaning of something might not give at all the flavor, the feeling, the context of the statement. That the language was always more specific than this. He said, pass the. Well, see, if I say pass the water, that's curiously a hard thing to translate if one isn't familiar with English. Does that mean walk around the water? Or does that mean something must be got through something? Does that mean something should be avoided? Et cetera, et cetera. So that the particularity of the language is always the strength, it only becomes, when it becomes general, so that it's said the same way. I love the fact that languages keep bleeding into one another, especially in contemporary, because of the communications expansion. The fact that the world now sees CNN, we was watching CNN down in downtown Accra for a brief minute or two, or radio, whatever it may be, the newspapers. But the agency of language, not the heart, but the intensive inner structure stays very specific. Here, think of Turkey must be this extraordinary diverse meld and historic layering of language. Must be. I got an extraordinary, thanks to Savench, I got this extraordinary necklace yesterday, which came from the north of Turkey, which was a time when probably it was a Greek, and so it's language the same. I don't want to make it, I wouldn't want to make it so general that you could have a language, say Turkish American. And there is a Turkish American. Come to America and
Thank you all of you for making this into this wonderful event, and thank you for sharing this with us. If there are no questions, perhaps you could ask your individual questions to the speakers after the
I wonder if we just have maybe 2 minutes to finish off with it.
Would this
The poem.
I have this book called Lyrical Poetry, and I describe when people ask this question, what kind of poems do you write? I always have to do with that one. So I write lyrical poems, cornflakes, brandy. 2 minutes, boy, I better go fast. I'm just going to read poems without even explaining them or talking about them, but just to put them in the air. Blue room, blue room. Blue being the color that best expresses the mood he is far away fixed. Notice the map and the furnishings. I wouldn't sit on that chair if I were you, and also missed so much. She appears to be pregnant or a little bit hungry for something. It has to be food if it isn't him, which it is. Is he gone for good, a seafaring man? She doesn't say, though appears to be trusting the beautiful, ambiguous face of another person's news. It's called Sonne, S-O-N-N-E. It's called this because it's not a sonnet. It's like two lines less. Where do you go when you go away? You don't really go away, do you? Want to dance the tango in France, dance with Valerie by the Seine, or you just need to be alone, but you don't say so. Everybody thinks you're sick, in need of something strong. Well, these things get around before the one who has the strongest will confront you, mon petit. I can't get away with that. That's a French pun on my own name, mon petit. I don't know, 2 more maybe, I don't know. Try and get something happy. No such thing. Okay, I'll finish with one, I'll read one more poem. If I can find it. From a little book called 21 Love. Oh look. This is a sort of a fake translation. I was very interested in the idea of translating when you don't know the language. Yeah, if I may indulge you, I'll read two poems. I'll read one that'll kind of sort of kiss off after that. Oh look, it is the hour. Oh look, it is the hour when smoking horizon under a mist screen conceals its outline. When forestry turns green to yellow, then brown. When the sun, blushing visibly, makes one last bow before departing. And even though we don't talk of it, so awed are we by its immensity and the parallel insignificance of our lives, we do watch it go down. Oh look, it is the hour when smoking horizon under a mist screen conceals its outline. When forestry turns green to yellow, then brown. When the sun, blushing visibly, makes one last bow before departing. And even though we don't talk of it, so awed are we by its immensity and the parallel insignificance of our lives, we do watch it go down. And I'll end there.
Well, talking about creativity, we have two more pieces we'd like to share with you. One is a play called Claire Vermont's Reverie, written and directed by Umut Çelikyay. The cast, Claire, Ebru Gezer, Simon, Umut Çelikyay. The second is a radio play called Visiting Jacques. It's written and directed by Michael Offerman right here. The cast, Günter Ay, Murat Öner, Barbara Pınar Erk. Okay, now the first one.
I don't really belong here. This is her space. I'm not even supposed to be here. But I mean, I just couldn't resist the temptation. I mean, she's always here, staring someplace off. I don't know why. I suppose I should really ask her, but I'm not allowed to. I've been here so many times. Anyway, she can't even see me. See what I mean? She doesn't even know I'm here. But I've had enough of this. This time, I want to talk to her. I'll make her talk to me. Claire? Claire? Wake up! Wake up! Claire? Claire? Claire?
What?
Claire?
What is it? Who are you?
Who? Oh, you mean me? I'm Simon. But that doesn't matter. I wanted to talk to you.
I don't know you. Simon? Angelic name, I suppose.
Yes, I think could be. Come on. This is no time to slip off reality. After all the times I've been here, just to talk to you, all the times I've waited, you just go back to your silly daydreams. Don't just leave me like that.
Christ, what the hell is it you want? Leave me alone, will you?
Oh, see, I've been watching you for a very long time. I'm just curious. I wanted to know why you're always dazed off. The only thing I can see is gray. What is it you see out there?
Gray. Gray's just a word.
So, won't you tell me, what is out there?
Pattern.
Patterns?
Yes. Wonderful. Colors, too. How can I explain? I'm having an immense vision. A field of scintillating, burning colors. A glittering realm. Colors melt, fuse, solve, run into each other. Shapes appear, run and vanish. Everything is hot, cold, fuzzy, fluffy, harsh, and then smooth. The whole thing twists and twirls, splits and burns. It bites, screams, sings, and then whistles. Then it starts all over again, soothing, intoxicating.
Stop it! Stop! I said stop! Stop! Stop!
Who do you think you are, bursting into my life, my world just like that? What are you doing in my place, intruding in my vision?
Listen, all of this you're seeing, none of it is real. You've got to get off this thing. It sounds like a very dangerous hallucination, and it could be very destructive, really destructive.
Not you, say? It's not less you than you are. These are my projections, my images.
Come on, you've got to quit ignoring me. Hear me out, will you? I mean, I don't know what you're up to, but it sounds like a very dangerous thing, and you've got to get off it. Claire? So, fine. She won't even talk to me anymore. I mean, what is going on around here? Her projections, her images? What's happened to my existence? What's happened to the sanctity of my existence? I mean, what does she think? Is she the only person who can dream? The only person who can have visions? I could do something of this sort. Colors I could do. Patterns, no big deal. I mean, she'll have to take me into consideration. I bet you she'll be impressed. So, she'll have to take me into consideration. She'll be impressed. I just do, so I can create. Claire? Claire?
What is it? You again? What is it now?
Claire, you've got to see this thing. I mean, see my projections for once. I mean, we've seen your projections so often without really understanding. This will be different. Think of soft, pale skies. Think of calm, lazy scenes of the old times. Think peace. Think tranquility.
Oh, what's all that? I know better than yield into these simplicities. Your efforts will be useless. You cannot simply replace something that you disagree with. Not that I think you can paint anything comparable to the way I conceive the universe,
No.
as I dream it out.
You don't understand. I mean, you said it yourself. You said, angelic. Just what? Don't you think we could make our images appear 1,000-fold in false colors, earth-shattering? Don't you think we could gild ourselves on 40 runs for the unsung commonfold en masse by many moons enthroned? We could, but...
Meint ihr nicht, wir könnten unterschreiben, auf dass uns 1 bis 2% gehören und Tausende uns hörig sind? Meint ihr nicht, wir könnten uns in Äther braten lassen und bis zum letzten Tropfen den Verpackungshandel fronen? Wir könnten, aber... Meint ihr nicht, wir könnten unsere Züge zigtausendfach in falschen Farben weltbewegend scheinen lassen? Meint ihr nicht, wir könnten uns vergolden, auf 40 Sprossen für unters Volk gebrachte Massen viele Monde thronen? Wir könnten, aber...
Good job.
You have an appointment with our master, right?
Yes, I mean, if it's possible.
Why don't you sit down for a moment? Let me ask. Mr. Ike is here. Yes, I understand. I'm sorry, but you have to wait a little bit.
I have time.
Shall I tell you something? I find it really amazing that, well...
Yes?
That you get an appointment, I mean.
Well, why not?
Our master has become quite reclusive. It's not easy to talk to him and quite expensive, too. Nothing is free in America. Visitors have to pay a certain price.
Is that so?
30 minutes with our master cost about...
I don't have any money.
How could you? Don't you worry. You ignore it anyway. Not too many people can talk to our master for free. You must be really important. Günther Ike. I'm sorry, but your name doesn't ring a bell.
I used to be quite popular once upon a time. Radio plays, you know. Although, I mean, who would exchange a good line from a poem for a play? Sometimes even one word is enough.
Radio plays are not really our fault.
Some desperate ones still tuning, at least in Germany. It's good that I called it off many years ago.
You called it off?
I kicked the bucket.
Oh yes, you're coming straight from paradise, isn't it so?
I had one wish free, so I decided to come here.
This isn't your country.
I'm not attracted by Germany. Germans always expect messages from their authors. They don't understand that we only ask questions.
Well, how is it out there?
In paradise?
Yes.
Boring, if you ask me. A world full of answers.
Some kind of Disneyland?
Not really, but equally exciting. I have always remained a negative joiner.
And what?
I prefer the chips to the wood.
That's what you're here.
You could say so. By the time I discovered your master, my moles had already appeared.
Your moles?
They were small pieces of prose. Fairly marginal, I think, but fast and subversive at the same time. Your master must have liked them.
So you live between the lines too?
I should think so.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did you die of a natural cause?
Well, quite natural indeed. I developed some bad habits during the last years of my life. Cocktails or pills would guide me on marvelous adventure trips.
Oh.
High percentage drinks will achieve more or less the same.
I understand.
Maybe you don't.
You have never met our master?
That's why I'm here.
Our master is a bit obscure sometimes.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's not easy to understand him. He has tried to create a language of his own in order to challenge the horizons of our logic. In a way, he has reversed the entire logocentric tradition. Some people even talk of the Second Copernican Revolution. Well, maybe I'll tell you a story.
Why not?
I'm not sure whether this has actually happened.
Don't be over-intense.
Have you ever been to Buffalo?
Where is that?
In New York State, not too far from the Niagara Falls. Buffalo is renowned for its university, a really good place, and the Faculty of Arts and Letters is even better. They have real literature hats. Two of them are especially well known. Leslie, who claims that the coined the word postmodern publication is some kind of event. So one day, Raymond and Leslie meet at Talking Leaves, one of the finest bookstores in the country. After a while, Leslie shakes her head and says, I don't understand it either. So you must have a bad day too, Raymond replies. He proposes to go to a bar, and that's what they decide to do. So they buy 2 copies of the text because that's what they had intended to do anyway, and go to Root Boys where the afternoons are on the quiet and peaceful side. And so they start again. They read aloud, word by word, until Raymond finally says, the following day they both canceled their classes.
Unfortunately, my critics always knew what to think.
May I offer you a cup of tea? Big cocktails.
No, I mean something really special.
Well, what is it?
Would you have some spiritus?
Pardon?
Naive, but I come straight from...
Paradise?
Yes. Where are we here?
This is the Nevada desert.
Ah.
We have the entire research center to ourselves. You're sitting in the central office. The conference hall is behind the door on the left. Actually, we use it as our dining room, too. Do you want to take a look?
No, thank you.
The power station is underneath. Of course, all streets and buildings are air-conditioned.
The desert, I understand.
Yes, we live under some kind of oxygen tent, which is separated from the outside world by a magnetic shield. The computer is in control of the entire system. Here, this is the heart of our center.
Very impressive.
Indeed. Also, each of us has a bungalow of his own. Look at camera 7, that's mine.
Nice.
I love this kind of Tudor style. There was a time when the Brit had something to offer.
What's your name, by the way?
You can call me Barbara.
Nice to meet you.
This house belongs to Hillis.
Uh-huh.
I find his taste quite atrocious. What's your comment? Do you like this?
It's something Mexican, isn't it?
Yes, Hillis used to travel to Santa Fe at least once a year, so he was dying to have an adobe-style bungalow. Not really my cup of tea, I must admit.
And your master?
He went for something really exceptional. Just a moment. Camera 1, there it is.
Wow!
Do you recognize it?
Isn't that the Montalvo Tower?
Not the original, of course.
Stephen Dedalus.
Our master lodges right on top. He wants us to pay.
For what?
His books are very problematic. Jonathan always felt the need to explain whatever our master would say. He was looking for the perfect translation.
Oh my God.
You mention it. You cannot imagine how many ingenious insights were sold to the demands of immediate consumption. And it was always Jonathan who was behind it. Of course, it's much easier to listen to his fish stories than to study our master's originals. Actually, our master is constantly on the run, desperately trying to hide from the Jonathans of this world.
I know what you mean.
Jonathan has become quite useful, however. He's always the first to study our master's texts. We have learned our lesson, I can tell you that. Whenever Jonathan indicates that he's going to reduce a text to its supposed basic principles, we withdraw that text immediately.
Moles are afraid of light too.
If Jonathan admits, however, that he doesn't have a single clue, then we know that the text in question must be worthwhile. So we pass it on to Hillis. Hillis checks it again for its lack of accessibility, and then the text ends up with me.
So what do you do?
My task is to deconstruct our master's offerings. I write an article of my own, and before any competitor can catch up with us, both texts will have been published. Writing a text and deconstructing it has become a simultaneous process because we're also running our own printing press.
Amazing. May I ask you a question?
Sure.
What is the meaning of the word to deconstruct?
Of course, we're not satisfied with the fact that we don't understand a text. Blindness is followed by insight.
Yes.
So when we deal with our own writings, we examine them very carefully, paragraph by paragraph. We look for gaps and contradictions. It is a fact that every text runs against its own line of argumentation. So in a later stage, Hillis will deconstruct my own deconstructed reading of our master's text.
Well, what does your master say to all this?
A lot. He always has the final word. We tend to look quite pale when he starts to scrutinize our own offerings. To be quite honest, he's always far ahead of us.
A good mole indeed.
That's what he is, yes. A mole with a perfect overview. Of course, we all believe in the postmodern conception of truth. Truth shines at the horizon like a comet in order to disappear almost simultaneously.
Yes, because it is neither in our language nor in reality, but somewhere in between. Between the lines, maybe. That's where I love to hide. In the gaps of our language where nobody could find me. I also saw myself as a grudging old crab at the bottom of the sea. You withdraw into your shell, and from time to time you stick out your head and come up with some grouchy remarks. However, being a crab is not that nice either. There comes a time when you encounter yourself like a cat, and that's the moment you're afraid of. We want to be understood, not digested. Therefore, we have to hide in our language and look really spiky.
Exactly.
I mean, what's the basis of our work? By developing the claws of a crab, by learning to speak the hedgehog words that cannot be digested immediately, those words that don't want to be quoted, by insisting on a language of our own, we keep our language open for change and innovation. Thus, society itself remains an open concept. Changes manifest themselves in language first. That's the basis of any process of innovation. I like your master's writings because they convey the same idea. Sitting at a desk, we decide upon the world.
Bravo.
You agree with me?
Of course. We recreate the world in our word processes, or make it disappear completely. I have a question for you.
Yes?
I'm a bit surprised. I mean, why do you still care?
This tunnel connects every building in our complex with the Marcella Tower. It's like the radiant tunnel, if you understand what I mean. Oh no, that's the wrong direction.
Excuse me.
That's where the generator is.
He is right at the top.
Feeling exhausted?
Sort of.
We almost made it. There we are.
No door?
Just go in.
What's that?
His study room.
Yes, but...
Çekmiyor ki yalancı.
Bir şey görmüyor musun?
Hocam! Hocam! Kameraya bakın.
Tutanmış gibi. Kaçmayın, kaçmayın. Suç işlerken hiç utanmadınız mı?
Hadi ya.
Nerede? Arabayı mı değiştirmiş?
Bahçeden geçeceğim.
Hayır, parkeye gidiyorum. Atayım mı parkeye gelir misin?
Hocam hocam. Aa valla şu araba. Bu köşeye sıkıştı, bu köşe sıkıştı, orada sıkıştı.
Yok artık.
Yürüyerek çekilmez.
Geldi ya, şurası baş başa kaldı.
Ailenin görebileceğini hiçbir zaman aklından çıkarma bunu.
Ne olacak ki? Tutamaz ki.
Dans edeyim mi? Abone.
Çek çek. Bakan olurken gösterir.
Evet. Sayın öğrenci, siz öğrenci misiniz burada? Kaçmayın. Kaçmayın.
Star 1 tabii ne diyor?
Evet, Star 1'den geliyor.
Bizim de. Onu burnuma sokmuyor.
Fenerbahçe'nin bu durumunu dinliyorsunuz arkadaşlar.
Evet, Fenerbahçe iyi yolda şimdi. Takacağız sizi.
Ne yapıyorsun?
İyidir ya.
Siz konuşun bakın.
Çekme. Reklam olur.
Şöyle sanatsal çek. Hatırasal.
Daha ben.
Peki yani burada şey değil mi? Adam
Bu el benim elim.
Aykut çok
Kendimi Aykut'un 0 aldı antropoloji notunu öğrenmeye gidiyoruz.
İçerisi çeker mi?
Ha?
İçerisini çeker mi?
Şimdi onları ne çekiyorsun? Güzel şeyler çek. Okuluk falan çek.
Dur bir dakika. Bizim bölümü çekeyim ben.
Yeter kızım, senin klibini mi yapıyoruz burada biz?
Klibimi yapar.
Kapa.
Arabaya gidelim ya. Arabaya gidelim de.
Hayır, arabaya gidiyoruz. Ya.
Arabaya gidiyoruz zaten.
Gidi. Teknik konuşmaya çalışıyorum ama gidiyoruz. Biz
İçeride saldırı geldi. Ayağım bir saldırı.
Ama ben hazırlıkta canlanmalı şey demiştim. Büyük ihtimalle demiştim. Ben uçta olduğum zaman yumurta aynı dersi.
I'd like, before we begin, to request that the audience remain after the speech and some brief question period time for a 10-minute production of a play. It will be explained to you as it goes along. So please, when he's finished, this will take maybe 2 minutes to set up and about 10 minutes to go through. And I think it's a perfectly appropriate end to what has been a splendid couple of months of activity. Most particularly this past week, which has been a matter of enormous excitement to many of us. The intellectual depth and intensity and excitement that Ed Foster brings to everything he does, including even casual conversation, sort of like being with Robert Duncan reborn, is something to behold. Ed, of course, most of you now, I look around the audience, have heard and know. But if there's still somebody here who doesn't, I should tell you he's from Stevens University of Technology in New Jersey. That he has been to Turkey on 3 other occasions, twice as a Fulbright scholar, and came once 3 years ago to give lectures in this very room, and in classes here and also at Duke University. He, among his extraordinary achievements, is this wonderful magazine, now being regarded in America as, if not the finest, certainly one of the 2 or 3 finest journals of contemporary poetry and poetics, as it says in the subtitle, Talisman. This is now the 8th issue, spring 1992, that has just been published. And I reveal no secret, since he revealed it the other day, when I say that Samuel Retzoff, one of the contributors, is, well, Retzoff spelled backwards looks suspiciously like Foster. So I suspect we have not just an editor here, but also a writer. On the back of this text is one of my favorite lines from Walt Whitman, and it probably says as much about Ed Foster as anything could say. All beauty comes from beautiful blood and a beautiful brain. Right. Okay, Ed. Right.
Thank you very much. Sometime, David, I'll get to introduce you and I'll embarrass you as much as it's embarrassed me. Anyway, if I could possibly live up to that introduction, good Lord, I'd be an angel. I would, however, like to do something today which may perhaps, at least in some minor way, justify that by perhaps bringing what I've been doing during the past week to a meaningful program. And since then, I've been trying to think of ways in which I could present a number of ideas that seem to be very germane for the kind of writing which has been done in America in the last few generations. There's nothing about it which I think is distinctly American. I mean, there's nothing essentially in the work of Robert Creeley, which, for example, makes him American. There's superficial things. I mean, there's a superficial sense of the American language, for example. But underneath what really makes the poetry work is not something which is bound by a particular culture, and something which is available, I think, to any culture and can be adopted by it and utilized in all kinds of significant ways. It really has to do with an attitude toward language. And during the past week, in a series of lectures, what I tried to do is organize the possibilities of that kind of writing, suggest what it's accomplished, suggest where it's come from, and perhaps indicate ways in which it might be utilized in an academic program. At least that's been my intention. Maybe it's come across that way, maybe it hasn't, but that's basically what I've tried to do. What I'd like to do today is to take everything that I've been doing and to put it in some sort of complete context and suggest how in all of these various lectures, and some of you have very kindly and generously, I think, followed all of them, I try and show how they all fit together. For others, if there are bits and pieces here which don't seem clear as I present them, then please ask me afterwards and I will elaborate on them. Essentially, the kind of writing that I have been proposing is, as I have reiterated over and over again, a kind of writing which does not depend on a particular political perspective, but which grows out of the act of writing itself. Which I mean that this kind of writing is not initiated by a desire to say something. In other words, it doesn't take certain suppositions which have to be expressed and then find a way to express them, but evolves just simply from the fact of writing. My claim has been that that kind of writing will always certainly have its effect, its political effect, even if that isn't what its initial cause will be. And I would start here by taking as an example a writer named Jackson Maclow. And I imagine that Maclow is probably not a name that most people outside of a very small group, I think basically poets and writers, are aware of. But Maclow has been around since the 1940s, and he's very, very, very highly respected for his use of what we would call chance, or he calls actually, chance-generated text. He falls very neatly, as a matter of fact, into the kind of writing that I have been describing. Basically, what he wanted to do was eliminate intention from the literary work, insofar as it could be done. His training, his background, basically, in terms of religion, was he was a Zen Buddhist. In terms of politics, he's an anarchist. Essentially, in both instances, in other words, his real concern is somehow for the individual. But not for the individual as a self, as an identifiable self within a social environment, but the self as the means through which whatever is true will evolve, will emerge. And the question was then, how do you allow that to happen? How do you let that truth emerge without having it be conditioned or restrained or repressed by expectations either in the language or in the culture or in some other thing? Well, anyway, his answer was the chance-generated text. And basically what this meant was to take a formula for writing, some kind of formula for writing, which would propose certain words. And then one would create the text only on the basis of those words. He does that now with a computer. Originally, he did it by using the I Ching and other methods, but it all comes fundamentally the same thing. A kind of artificial structure, an artificial method which has no necessary implications in itself, and take the words which arise from that particular system and then use only those in the creation of the text. Now, of course, when in any activity, any human activity, obviously the individual is going somehow to emerge. And it certainly is true that you take a text by Jackson McLowe, and it would be very different from a text by John Cage, who, as a matter of fact, learned how to do fundamentally the same thing by studying McLowe, who's a very close friend of his, by studying McLowe's work. The distinction is there. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's something very characteristic of McLowe's work. And yet, it does not begin ever with the sense that I want to say this, or I have a certain point to make, or I want to change something, and therefore this is the way to do it. It begins rather with a set of words. A set of words chosen insofar as they can be chosen at random, and then from this follows the desire to put them together into some kind of coherence. When you have these words, then what kind of meaning seems to emerge from them? Now, there is in France at this time a group of writers who were under a very similar set of conditions, the Oulipo writers. One of them is an American, Harry Matthews, but all the rest are French. And what they do in this particular case is propose a series of rules for text in order, once again, to achieve a kind of literary meaning which is more than an expression of personal need or interest or desire or what have you. Recently I've been working on this, and a group of people have been assigned, actually. They've been trying to make their methods better known in America. And so they've chosen various people, and they've assigned them different ways of writing. And in my particular way of writing is to take two poems, any two poems, and strip them of their nouns, verbs, and adjectives, but leaving the syntax and the articles in place, and then taking in exactly the order in which they occur, the adjectives, nouns, and verbs from one text, and putting them in this one, and taking them from this text, and putting them into that one. Now, your conclusion, of course, is, well, what you're going to get is just simply nonsense. But you don't, actually. The interesting thing is you do not get nonsense, but you get very genuine meaning. You can take a poem, in other words, by, say, well, in my instance, by Vaughan, and you take another poem by Marvell, and you exchange the words, you keep the structure, and oddly enough, you find that Vaughan's language in Marvell's structure creates a kind of meaning. Well, what we're getting at here is that in some sense, there are many more meanings in the world than the conventions with which we generally live ordinarily permit. And if you can open yourself to this kind of chance, this openness to possibility, you find that the world becomes much larger. That's exactly what the Oulipo writers discovered, and that's exactly what McLowe and Cage have been doing in their work too. Now, there are some people who would say that this kind of work is avant-garde. I mean, that's generally what it's identified by, in popular parlance. I mean, that's, you pick up something like, the Village Voices, and you find a review of a book by Jackson McLowe, and he will be identified as one of America's leading avant-garde poets. Now, last fall, I participated in a very interesting conference in which the Italian embassy brought to America those who were identified as the major Italian poets of my generation. And then a number of Americans were brought there too. And the idea was to establish some kind of interchange, to see if there were any points in which what they were doing and what we were doing overlapped. Bruce Andrews being one of those whom I talked about earlier as having been a founding editor of Language Magazine. For those of you who were not there today, I talked about that. I tell you that Language Magazine is one of the critical, really one of the very critical journals in the creation of contemporary American poetry. Essentially, what it did was establish language rather than the self as the principal focus of writing. In any case, Bruce Andrews, seeing that one of his esteemed compatriots, Jackson McLowe, is there, set out to praise him by calling him one of our great avant-garde, experimental, innovative poets. I was uncomfortable with that, and a number of other people were uncomfortable too. Some of you may have met Simon Penn, who was here, I believe, a couple of weeks ago, and he was in that audience that time, and he too was disgruntled with it. And afterwards, he and another friend, Leonard Schwartz, and some others were talking about the situation, and we decided that we would respond in our different ways to what Bruce Andrews had said about McLowe. But the reason for our discontent was often difficult to articulate. What is wrong with talking about an avant-garde? What is wrong about talking about really experimental or innovative writing? Well, each of us sat down, and each of us prepared a response, and each of us delivered one. But none of us were anywhere nearly as effective as McLowe himself. McLowe's response was this: we shouldn't, when one deals with poetry, one should not use the word avant-garde, because avant-garde fundamentally has militaristic implications, and poetry does not exist in that world. You shouldn't use the word experimental or innovative either, because those have scientific implications, as if the poet were an experimenter. You're not experimenting. That's not what's going on, any more than you're conducting a campaign to say that this kind of poetry is triumphs over that kind of poetry. That's not what's involved. That's not what's involved. And it was a very, I thought, a very powerful, very important talk. And this copy of Talisman that Professor Landry just had includes it, if you're interested. The whole speech is reprinted there. And the points that it makes, I think, are very valid, and they're the ones on which I'd like to sort of, in a sense, establish my remarks which follow. Fundamentally, it seems to me, in other words, that whatever it is that takes place in poetry does not depend upon those conditions that you might identify either as militaristic, which means a desire for power, fundamentally, or on the basis of science, which theoretically at least is engaged in the pursuit of truth. Whatever is going on in poetry really operates in a completely different area, it's a completely different zone. And if you limit yourself to that kind of terminology, that kind of conceptualization, the result is that you won't get poems. My question is there a way, is there actually a way that we can talk about what goes on in the poem? Now, in the lecture on Friday, the point that I was making was essentially the answer is no. In reality, the poem is something which is its own justification, its own end, as much a justification and an end as nature is. And that particular argument is something which has been made, of course, consistently by poets since the beginning of time, and rarely believed by critics, anthologists, and professors. However, it's true. It is true that whatever it is that happens in the poem cannot somehow be used. And that's what you're doing, really. That's what you're really doing. You're turning the tree into lumber when you somehow utilize the work and make it seem avant-garde, historical, innovative, experimental. All these things really are somehow a kind of fraudulent use of what literature and poetry really is. And I would say that probably for about 200 years, American poetry was fraudulent. Basically what it was a series of attempts to define certain ideas, present certain positions. It was always imitative. There are occasional exceptions. You find this in Anne Bradstreet. You find it occasionally in William Cullen Bryant. But by and large, for about 200 years, the first Puritans until about 1836 to be exact, there isn't much. There isn't much. And then something happens. Something absolutely critical in the whole history of American poetry, and which can be used in a way to explain why the 150 years that follow are so different from the 200 years that preceded. The key individual is actually Ralph Waldo Emerson. And the crucial event which generated a recognition of what poetry is rather than what it is used for was, in 1828, his decision to stop being the minister of the Second Congregational Church in Boston. Now, let me give you a little background here in the theology so you understand exactly why that decision was as revolutionary and radical for the time as it was. In Christian churches, the central ceremony is what is called the Eucharist, and or Holy Communion, actually, as it's called in Emerson's church. And basically, what this, and some of you may be aware of this, but let me explain it in case you're not. What this involves is a moment in which wine and bread are thought to actually become the body and blood of Christ. Now, this is very, very important in the whole tradition of Christianity because it represents a merging of the world of spirit with the world of matter. You understand? In other words, the divine suddenly becomes one with matter. And there is this moment in which one passes into the other. All the rest of the time, we live in a world of relative matter. But just for a moment, you see, we have access to the divine. That's essentially what is going on. That is essentially what the tradition means. And what Emerson suddenly realized in 1828 was that he didn't believe it. He didn't believe it, and so he couldn't do it. But that presented him with an enormous spiritual crisis because he had shattered the link that gave his own life meaning. And for the 8 years that followed, he was in a state of tremendous emotional turmoil and spiritual turmoil as he tried to find some new justification, some new way of understanding this world without recourse to what would then happen to most of us, and that is a sense of utter nihilism. Things ultimately have no meaning in a world of utter relativity if there is nothing that one has access to that is somehow constant and meaningful, then indeed one is thrown into a totally nihilistic state. His solution came to him by way of a good friend from college named Sampson Reed. And Sampson Reed was a student of the Swedish mystic Emanuel Swedenborg. Now let me tell you something about Swedenborg. Swedenborg is very, very important in Western poetry. His influence underlies poetry as different as that of William Butler Yeats, of William Blake, of Robert Frost, and Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's a very, very important figure because he essentially solved the same problem for all of these people. They interpret it differently. By the way, another person is very important to it, and I'll get to him in a moment, is Baudelaire. They read Swedenborg differently. They all understood him in completely different ways. And yet, his assertion that there was a correspondence, this is the key word, that there was a correspondence between the world of matter, of physical things, and the world of spirit was significant in providing an alternative to conventional Western traditions, which were basically Platonic or Christian of one kind or another. In any case, What Swedenborg believed was that there was a one-to-one correspondence. He wrote books about this. For example, he decided that the left eye somehow had connection to divine grace. And the left eye had a connection to divine grace, and the right eye had a connection to law, divine law. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. He wrote books and he said, like, this finger means this spiritually, this finger means... You know, if you were around today, I'm sure you'd be walking by things. That light means something, you know, and this particular, you know, whole design here, this will tell us something. I mean, he saw the world in this way. He wrote the works of Swedenborg are massive. It's a library the man wrote. And by the way, he began doing this when he was 54 years old. But the result was, you know, not so much what the specifics, not so much the specifics of correspondence as the idea of correspondence. The idea that one could gain access. It was what the poet Robert Duncan would eventually call permission. He gave people permission to see the world of matter in terms of spirit, to see something beyond it. Now, Emerson read this and he was convinced that it was right. And if you read Emerson's first great book, which is Nature, which was published in 1836, hence the date, you'll see that he is fundamentally, at that stage, a Swedenborgian. Basically, he believes at that point in some kind of static correspondence. He says, in effect, that nature is the symbol, he doesn't say, in effect, this is what he really says, nature is the symbol of spirit. In particular, natural acts are symbols of particular spiritual acts. Now, something happened in the years immediately following that to change Emerson's apprehension of the world of spirit and to create the revolution that I am trying to indicate. What he did was reject Swedenborg's idea of a static one-to-one relationship between matter and spirit and say that no, the world of spirit, like the world of matter, was in perpetual transformation. This idea is not new by any means, but it was new within the modern context. That was not how other people were reading Swedenborg or understanding correspondence. That was not the way William Blake, for example, understood it. William Blake is very, very close to the original Swedenborgian one-to-one correspondence. How about Baudelaire? I said I would get back to him. But Baudelaire likewise insisted on a kind of one-to-one correspondence between matter and spirit. Where Baudelaire differed was seeing correspondence within the world of matter as something that was always changing. And out of this grew the idea of synesthesia. You know synesthesia is? The idea that things that you see have their correspondence in things that you hear. And therefore, it is possible to create an artificial paradox. The beginnings of French modernism, as a matter of fact, are in that recognition. The sonnet which he wrote, Correspondence, if you don't know that, I recommend you look at it sometime. It's very, very, absolutely key document, absolutely key document. And you'll notice that the first couple of stanzas or groups of lines, first two quatrains, consist basically of a restatement of what you might call vertical correspondence. There's the correspondence between the world of spirit and the world of matter. But then he moves into this idea of synesthesia, and he is in it then a realm in which the artist is somehow free to create. The artist can change the world into something which is more compatible to his or her being. That sonnet was read in turn by Rimbaud, it was read by Mallarmé, it was read by Valery, and you really get from that a whole new way of writing the poem that is identifiably French and which then has its echo in German literature. You find it in Stefan George, you find it in Rilke, you find it in Trakl, it makes its way to Italy, you find it in Montale, it makes its way ultimately into Spain, and it's in Garcia Lorca, it makes its way into American poetry, in T.S. Eliot, for example, and in certain ways you can also find it in Ezra Pound and so forth. But it represents a different tradition from what I'm talking about. It's very important, absolutely essential. But what I'm getting to is for my purposes, slightly more interesting and opens slightly more avenues for the poet. This idea of things being in constant change, always being transformed. And what Emerson said was that the poet, if he or she would recognize the fact that poetry, language was always in transformation, could record this fact. In other words, he recognized that language was always changing. He said the world of spirit is always changing. Somehow the poet, by lending him or herself to that aura of spiritual change, would be able to reproduce it in the poem. So the poem in that way becomes a kind of document of change, or of process, to use the word which becomes more factual, actually, as we get closer and closer to the present. It becomes an announcement of process, an expression of process. Well, the next step, and the step which follows immediately after that, is to then sever this aesthetic from the world of spirit. You understand that the need for this correspondence all this time was a need somehow to pin down meaning. To say, that everything changes here, everything is mutable. But if we can somehow gain access to the world of spirit, we have some kind of permanence which will give our world a significance that will give, in turn, our being here meaning. And now what Emerson is saying is that meaning is itself change. That rather than deny that change, what you want to do is to welcome it. You want to gain access to it. That is what the poem fundamentally should be. That is what the poem fundamentally should be. All right. Walt Whitman is the key figure in this. Because Walt Whitman, despite what some of his less observant interpreters toward the end of the 19th century wanted to believe, had in his early works no sense that there was kind of an ideal world up there which was perpetually in motion. He was interested in the fact that we are. He wanted the poem to be a record of change, a record of change. Let me fill in here, if I could, another point which is actually critical to all this. The great argument which people would have, and Emerson knew this, against his idea was that it does literally and absolutely mean moral relativism. What it means is there is no absolute good, there is no absolute evil. There is no absolute good, there is no absolute evil. And Emerson recognized that instantly, and to his credit, says in his essay on self-reliance, good and bad are but names which can be variously attached to this and that. That's all they are. Yes, in fact it is. The world is morally relative, and what we must do is accept that fact. People who don't like Emerson usually don't like him because he's so optimistic. But you understand that the Pandora's box he had opened was so dangerous in some sense to himself in do but be optimistic. In some sense, that was what allowed him to maintain his sanity in the face of a tremendous inner revelation. But for Whitman, that was not a problem. Well, he certainly says, it's utterly morally relative, but he doesn't need to be optimistic. All he needs to do is just simply to assert that one must recognize whatever is. One must recognize whatever is. The great secret, by the way, behind this, is that this aesthetic does not lead to war. That is the very interesting thing. that despite what one might have thought after years of concern about needing some sort of absolute guide or goal or moral hierarchy or structure, the fact of the matter is that it is a desire for moral hierarchy and structure which causes war. One group says, this is it, and the other group says, no, that's it. And so what are we going to do but have a war? Let's fight it out. But in the Emersonian and the Whitmanian approach to things, the very fact that one is different from somebody else is irrelevant. You don't fight it out, you accept it. You don't fight it out, you accept it. Difference becomes its own virtue. In other words, difference becomes its own virtue. One doesn't need sameness. That, in any case, is what the Emersonian tradition, of which Robert Creeley is a brilliant expression, as a matter of fact, that is what the Emersonian tradition fundamentally is all about. It is about the need for difference, the need for the individual to be such as the individual is, and to make the writing then an expression of that fact. There are a number of steps which then follow in this process. One of the key people is Gertrude Stein. Gertrude Stein is a fascinating writer. Gertrude Stein is a writer whom every poet, every novelist, since she put pen to paper, has known implicitly, but who has generally been ignored or misinterpreted by critics who quite seriously can't make any sense out of her. And what is she doing? What is this all about? Well, let me tell you what it's all about. Gertrude Stein was the student of William James. And William James's godfather was Ralph Waldo Emerson. His father, Henry James Sr., was a Swedenborgian minister. Now, William James is not Swedenborgian, and he's not an Emersonian. But he comes out of that tradition in a
Etherized upon the table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights, cheap hotels, and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. Streets follow like a tedious argument of insidious details to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask what is it. Do not ask what is it. What is it?
Oh, no, sir. I'm a poet. Sometimes the troubles come tumbling out.
Sorry, I didn't know.
That's okay. Words are not valid yet.
The fleeting voices, insubstantial figures, they fuss around.
Another interminable night. Men cease to be young with the noisy regularity of life.
I thought you had come up for pleasure.
You vegetable, how unromantic you are.
By God, we have to be.
We must do something.
The ordinary day-to-day unhappiness.
No, not at all. There is no reason why I should feel humiliated, not me. And though it goes against the grain for me to do it, I'll do it.
In what respect?
In all respects.
Swell, he has his apotheosis.
No, he's just zigzagging.
One of the supreme genius of Renaissance, I believe.
And probably the greatest artist who ever lived. Did you know that? He was the poet also.
Why can they not understand?
The moments move on and on. There is no missing sense of their flow.
Oh, no, not you.
And their mutability never hides their sameness.
I said shut up.
Very determined indeed. If you can't deal with people, you have to make it start somewhere. Go on.
Lower your voice. Somebody may hear you.
Better late than never.
Better sure than sorry.
Go on. Stop that question. How dare you presume I'm human? Prove it.
I don't know why, but that's what usually happens.
A man may feel so completely on the edge that he seeks no form of satisfaction that will come by an answer, but only distraction and oblivion, raising more and more questions.
You idiot. Don't you?
konferans salonumuz böyle değerli konuklar söz konusu olunca yetmiyor. Sanıyorum Beytepe tarihinde de ilk defa bu salon bu kadar dolu oldu. Gerçekten 3 konuğumuz da çok kısıtlı vakitlerini bize ayırmak lütfunda bulundular, inceliğinde bulundular ve sanıyorum bir saat ancak bizimle kalabilecekler. Ayşe Hanım bize öyle söylemişti. Yani mümkün oldu.
10 dakika daha uzayabilir.
Benim kendilerini tanıtmama hiç gerek yok. Çok az duyuruyla bu kadar kişi buraya geldiyse mutlaka onların sayesindedir. Onun için ben çok lafı uzatmadan konuklarımızla sizi baş başa bırakacağım. Şimdiden tekrar teşekkür ediyoruz bizimle birlikte olmak zarafetini gösterdiğiniz için. Bir de burada sanıyorum oyunun, aldatma oyununun Türkçe çevirileri var. İlgilenenlerin nasıl başlamak istersiniz?
Soru yanıt biçiminde herhalde gösterecektik.
Evet. Acaba Acaba bir öneri olarak bu oyunla bu sömestr ilgilenen öğrencilerden veya oyunu görmüşlerden bir soru gelirse belki sonrası doğal olarak devam eder. Ben
öncelikle şunu öğrenmek istiyorum. Oyun 1977 tarihinde başlıyor. Aldatma. Biz okuduk oyunu. Yalnız siz geçmişe dönerken 2 yıl önce ya da 1 yıl sonra şeklinde yazıldı sahneye. Neden tarihleri vermediniz? Ben onu merak ediyorum. Yani yoksa bir genelleme mi yapmaktı amaç? Yani ne amaçla tarih verilmedi?
Geriye dönüşü olduğu gibi kullandık. Ama 77'de değil, bugün başladı. Bugünden başlayıp 9 yıl geriye götürdük.
Yani hangi tarihte olduğu pek önemli olmadığı için, yani 77'de de başlamış olabilir, 92'de de. Onun için tarih vermek yerine bu anın 2 yıl öncesi ya da 1 yıl önce, onun 1 yıl öncesi, onun 2 yıl öncesi gibi öyle geçişlerle.
Ama pardon, 2 yıl önce dedikten sonra 2 yıl önceye döndüğümüz zaman olayı takip eden bir sonrasını izliyorduk.
Bazen
yani biz okuyarak olayları tanıdığımız için mesela Zuhal Hanım Sphinx kitabını okuyor. İkinci sahnede Sphinx'ten bahsedince o konunun devamı olduğunu anladık.
Tabii.
Ama diğer arkadaşlarımız, diğer sınıflardan ondan karıştırdılar epey olayların sırası.
Eğer 2 yıl öncesi ya da 1 yıl öncesi demiyorsa belli ki ileri gidiyor. Dediğimiz zaman geri gidiyor ancak. Çünkü bazen olaylar takip ediyoruz. 5., 6. ve 7. sahne birbirinin ardından gelen sahneler. Ondan sonra 12 yıl öncesi oluyor, 8. sahneye geçiyoruz. Ya da benzeri.
Yani aynı metinde olduğu gibi, okuduğumuz metinde de bir bölüm bittikten sonra 2 yıl öncesi der, ondan sonraki bölümden sonra geriye gidiş olmuyorsa bir şey demez. Aynı kullananı biz sahneye projeksiyonda aktar.
Oyunun temposuyla ilgili galiba bir arkadaşla daha bizim bir tartışmamız oldu. Daha önce veyahut da teksti okurken oyun, o pozlar, aralar çok belirgin. Acaba siz özellikle mi birazcık tempoyu hızlandırdınız? Bize, ya biz 2 arkadaş o izlenime edindik. Belki diğer arkadaşlar da aynı şeyi düşünmüşlerdir. Daha önceye göre ben daha önce görmüştüm yurt dışında, çok daha ağır bir tempoydu. Onu değiştirmek için mi hızlandırdınız?
Hayır, sonu değiştirelim diye özel bir yaklaşımımız olmadı. Bu tabii yanlış olurdu. Pentagon Tiyatrosu'nda durakların çok önemli bir yer tuttuğu tabii malum. Onun için bunun tersine gitmek gibi bir amacımız olmadı. Ama belki son 1 ay içinde 8-9 değişik kentte çok sıkışık bir tempo ile oynadığımız için bilinç dışı bir sıkışma olmuş olabilir. Belki sizin dikkatinizi çeken odur. Yoksa tabii ki o durakları baştan sona Pinter'ın dilediği biçimde kullanmak amacımız olmuştur en başta.
Tez konum. Eylül'de bu tezimi vereceğim ve 3 tane oyun seçtim Pinter üzerine. Fakat bu akşam bir oyununuzu seyredeceğim. Bundan da çok mutluyum. Belki bu bir karar değişikliği olabilecek benim üstünde. Yani betrayal'ı yapabilirim. Bu, yani şansa sahibim. Pinter üzerine söylemek istediğiniz bir şey var mı? Yani ne hissettiniz? Onun oyununu seçtiniz ama çünkü değişik bir dramatist, bunu biliyorum. Onun hakkında genel bir şeyler öğrenmek istiyorum. Sizin düşünceleriniz.
Pinter üzerine 2-3 cümle söylemek çok zor tabii. Çünkü dediği gibi bugün yaşayan, dünyada yaşayan tiyatro yazarları arasında 2-3 tanesinin içinde sayılan çok önemli bir yazar. Tarihsel süreç içinde bakarsak, çok kısaca bakarsak, 1951'de ilk oyunu yazmış, yani 40 yılı aşkın bir süredir oyun yazmakta. Ve sanıyorum geçenlerde yazdığı son oyun 24. oyunuydu. Pinter'ın 3 ayrı süresinden söz edilebilir. Bunlar gerçi bir Picasso yaşam süresinde olduğu gibi mavi dönem, bilmem ne dönem gibi ayrılabilen şeyler değil tabii, ama gene de Pinter'ın ilk dönemi, yani Betrayal'a kadar olan dönem. Ondan sonra Betrayal tek başına, başlı başına yer tutan bir oyun oluyor. Ondan sonraki oyunlarını da daha dünya sorunlarına, dünya gerçeklerine daha doğrudan yönelik bir yaklaşım içinde görmeye başlıyoruz. Ve son 10, 11, 12 yıl içinde. Ne eklemek istersiniz?
Yani aldatmanın diğer oyunlarından farklı bir yer olduğunu sen zaten söyledin. Belki de Pinter'ın ilk diğer oyunlarına kıyaslandığında ilk kez gerçekçi mekanlarda, gerçekçi kişilerle, gerçekçi bir kurguyla anlatıldığı bir oyun diye eklemek istiyorum.
Çok usta bir oyun. Dili çok iyi kullanıyor. Yani kimsenin kullanmadığı kadar belki iyi kullanıyor. Onun dilini yakalamak benim için çok keyif verici. Yani bilmece çözer gibi. Yakaladıktan sonra çeviri daha da zevklenmeye başladı.
Yani her cümlenin altında bir iç ses var. Diyalogların her birinde aslında seyircinin duymadığı bir iç ses var, iç diyalog var. O iç diyaloğu yakalayamadığınız sürece o andaki diyaloğa da bir anlam yüklemek ve bunu tabii ki seyirciye iletmek neredeyse imkansız. Onun için Pinter oynamak, Pinter'ı yorumlamak, özellikle aldatmak için söylüyorum. Bulmaca çözmek gibi bir şey, çok zevkli ve biraz da zor tabii.
Ben o sizin söylediğiniz yakalamakla ilgili iki yer dikkatimi çekti. Yani yakalayamadığım, diyalogda arkada olan sesi bulamadığım iki yer var. Şimdi Robert çok ironik yaklaşıyor. Yani iğneleyici bir şekilde özellikle Jerry'e karşı. Tabii Jerry bunların pek farkında değil. İki yerden biri birincisinde Emma'ların evinde Robert'la Jerry arasında geçen konuşmada ana rahminden erkek çocukların ayrıldığında daha çok işte ağırlıkların, kaygını aldıkları. Buradaki ironik yaklaşmanın Jerry ile Emma ile ilişkili iğnelerinin mi var, ne açıda onu bulamadım. İkincisi modern yazarlardan Robert'ın hoşlanmaması. Yani Casey'yi Jerry beğeniyor ya da Sphinx'i Emma beğeniyor ama Robert beğenmiyor. Bunu da Jerry ile Emma'nın ilişkisini de yorumluyor mu acaba? Ne olduğunu çıkaramadım.
Birincisini söyleyeyim önce. Bu insanın ana rahminden kopması, ayrılması ve dolayısıyla korumanını yitirmesi teması. İnceleyenler tabii yakından bilirler. Pinter'ın tiyatrosunda çok önemli yer tutan bir tema. Yalnız bu oyunda değil, özellikle ilk dönem oyunlarında hemen hemen hepsinde yer alan bir tema. Ana rahminden ayrılan ve korumasını yitiren kişi teması. O dediğim gibi egemen bir tema bütün Pinter'da. Robert'ın Jerry'i iğnelemesinde de bu bir araç olarak kullanılıyor dediğimiz gibi. Ve Emma'yı da devreye katarak kullanıyor bunu. Yani bu üçgen arasında karşı tarafta kalan iki kişiyi bu oyuna alet eden bir robot var. Ama tema olarak bütün Pinter'da, özellikle ilk dönem Pinter'ın oyunlarının hepsinde yer alan bir tema var. Ana rahminden kopma, ayrılma.
Biraz hani bütün o diyaloğun sonunda Robert Jerry ile dalga geçiyor. Yani uzunca tartıştıktan sonra cinsler arasındaki fark olmasın diyor Jerry ve Robert da sanki çok önemli bir şey keşfetmiş gibi Jerry. Vay canına hakikaten onun için olmalı filan diye dalga geçiyor. Jerry de böyle tuhaf bakıyor. Yani acaba önemli bir şey mi keşfettin diye o da şaşırıyor.
Kendini onlardan daha derin.
Belki yani modern romanların içeriği açısından da olabilir. Çünkü şey diyordu Robert bir yerde, işte Casey'den mi bahsediyor? Kendisi aldatılıyor, kendisi ayrılıyor bir yere gidiyor, karısını aldatan kendi durumda bir adamın hayatını romanına konu olarak.
Evet, son derece aşağılayıcı, küçümseyici biçimde bakıyor ona. Çünkü kendi klasik okuyor. Yates okuyor. Onun seçimi o. Onun için bu modern düz yazı edebiyatı dediği şeyi küçümsüyor, beğenmiyor. Beğenmediği için de Jerry ve Emma'yla özdeşleştiriyor. Onları da küçültüyor gözünde.
Sığlaştırıyor.
Sığlaştırıyor.
Siz böyle şeylerden hoşlanıyorsunuz. Modern edebiyattan, modern düz yazı.
Oyunu okuduğumda Robert karakterini daha sert bekliyordum. Yani olaya tepkisi daha aşırı olacak falan diye bekliyordum. Fakat oyunda daha yumuşak, daha esprili buldum. Bu acaba yönetmenin yorumu mu yoksa gerçekten Pinter'da mı onu amaçladı oyununda?
Ben daha sert görmedim bu karakteri. Sanıyorum yazarın amaçlarına uygun bir Robert portresi çizildi.
Daha tepkisiz belki, daha az tepki veriyor. O da belki oyunu çok belirgin bir yönü oluyor, öyle değil mi?
Evet.
Robert çok tepki verilecek yerlerde hiç istifini bozmuyor.
İstifini bozmuyor.
Sanıyorum onun en önemli özelliklerinden biri.
Öyle, çok öyle. Bir yerde İzmir'de bir söyleşi yaptık öğrencilerle böyle sizin gibi. Orada şöyle bir soru gelmişti. Türkiye ortam açısından düşünsek bunu nasıl olur yani Robert nasıl bu kadar tepkisiz kalır? Şimdi bir soru. Ve gerçekten de Gönül Hanım'ın dediği gibi tepkisizliği şaşırtacak ölçüde belirgin. Ve bu da tabii Pinter'ın özelliklerinden bir tepkisizlik giderek eşittir iletişimsizlik oluyor bir noktada onunla bağlanıyor.
Şimdi bu aldatmaların gerek eşlerin birbirini aldatması, gerekse iki dostun birbirini aldatmasıyla karakterlerin iç dünyası çok yansımıyor. Kitabın haricinde sadece oyunu izlesek çok az yansıyor, çok dikkatli olmak gerekiyor. Ancak benim anladığımda Robert'ın çok tepkisiz kalması bir eşini aldattığı için bundan dolayı bir acı çekmesi ve artı özellikle dostunun eşine çok güzel olduğunu söylediği zaman haklısın dostum deyip çıkıp gitmesi sanki onlara bir zemin hazırlıyor ve dostunun, en iyi dostunun ve eşinin kendisini aldatabileceğini kanıtlarcasına ve sanki bunu istercesine ve yıllar sonra da hala özellikle iki sevgili ayrıldığı zaman bile dostuyla görüşüyor bir iki ay öncesine kadar. Bunun sebebine sanki bu acıdan zevk duyarmış, bunu bilmekten zevk duyarmış bir tavır var. Bunu siz yorumlarken neler hissettiniz? Yani buna nasıl katlanabildiniz yorumlar? Beni çok daha fazla etkiledi. Belki öbür konu kamun olduğu için.
Robert çok ilginç bir karakter. Yani bu dediğiniz de olabilir işin içinde ve çok inceden ince, eğer tekste hissettiyseniz bir homoseksüelite bile yatıyor. Jerry'e olan hayranlığı Robert. Onun için yani Robert'a belki de hatta Venedik sahnesinin sonunda der ki Jerry'i hep sevmişimdir ben. Belki seni sevdiğimden de çok sevmişimdir her zaman. Keşke ben kendim onunla ilişkiye girseydim. Kadın irkidir ne demek istiyor? Ama onun altında yatan bir gerçek var. Ondan sonra squash oynamadık epeydir işte squash erkek işidir. Önce squash var sonra duş diye duş. Orada anlamlı bir şey. Yani inceden inceye o çok hafifçe altı çizilmiştir. Yani Robert'ta onun için bir dediğimiz şeyler de olabilir. Belki de bilemiyorum. Ya da hiçbir şey düşünmeden çekip gitti yatak odasına.
Dostunu çok sevdiği için eşine ilgi duymasından sanki memnunluk duyacak, acıyla birlikte.
Evet.
Bunu siz oynarken yorumladınız mı? Yani sizin yorumunuzda onu gördüm ben. Sanki bunu istermişçesine, izin verilmişçesine yorumluyorsunuz. Öyle anladım.
Robert'un yorumu olarak diyorsunuz. Robert dahil bu oyunda kimse çok acı çekmiyor. O yana önemli bir şey. Büyük acılar söz konusu değil. Çünkü bütün durum, bütün olay hiçlik üzerine kurulu.
Çok yüzeysel.
Anahtar sözcük burada hiçlik. Yapılan her şey derin anlamlar taşıyan, derinliklere uzanan şeyler değil. Yüzeysel ve hiçe giden boyutlar. Onun için çok büyük acılar çekilmesi söz konusu değil.
O zaman bir takım şeyler baştan yanlış mıydı? Yani evlilikler baştan yanlış mıydı diyebilir miyiz?
Bence evlilik de öyle. Yani Robert'la Emma'nın evliliği de çok bir derinlik yok. Onun için ilişkiyi keşfettikten sonra 4 yıl hiçbir şey yapmamayı gerekiyor. Yani bu ilişkiyi durdurmak için. Yani 4 yıl ilişkileri devam ediyor.
Sadece evlilik değil, yaşama bakışları belki öyle. Yani zaten onun da özünde yargılamaya çalıştığı insanların yaşama bakıştaki ilkesizliklerini, hiçliklerini vurgulamak diye düşünüyorum. Yani ekseni biraz daha büyütüp sadece üçlü ilişkiyi içinden çıkarıp daha geniş bir platformda.
Aşırıda bulamadılar aslında değil mi? Özellikle Emma.
Tabii. Hiç kimse
aradığı yok zaten, ben öyle düşünüyorum. Yani kiminle niye ilişki girdiğini yok, benim yok. İşte ufak tefek heyecanlar yaşıyor.
Ama
Cemil'e
yuva kurmaktan hep bahsediyor. Yani o icat söylediğinde de hayatını değiştirmeyi düşündün mü diye sorduk geriye.
O laf olsun diye sorulmuş bir şey
belki. Öyle bir amaç uğruna da birçok şeyden vazgeçmesi ya da büyük bir savaş vermesi söz konusu değil.
Evet, çünkü şunun...
Yani belki Jerry ile de ilişkiye girse 2 sene sonra belki Jerry de aldatacak. Jerry'den ayrılıyor, Casey'den ayrılıyor, işte kocasından ayrılıyor. Yani hep bir hiçlik, hep yalanlık. Ne yaptığını, ne istediğini çok bilmeden, ilkeleri olmadan yaşamak. Ama oyunun ürkütücü tarafları zaten. Yani. Teşekkür ederim. Çeviri yaparken acaba en çok nerede zorluk çektiniz?
Çeviriyi yaparken?
Evet.
Çok ilginç yerlerde, hiç ummadığım yerlerde zorluk çektim. Çünkü demin de söylediğim gibi Pinter hiçbir şeyi boşu boşuna kullanmıyor. Hiçbir sesi, hiçbir kelimeyi, hepsinin önemi var. Örneğin, we are lovers cümlesini çevirirken çok güçlük çekti. Türkçe'de karşılığı yok. Çünkü lovers'dan kastedilen aşk değil. Yani bir ilişkileri var. Sadece akşamüstü bir tuttukları bir flatta buluşup sevişiyorlar. Hoş oldukları akşamüstü. Benedict sahnesinde Emma we are lovers der Robert'a. Burada güçlük çektim. Türkçe nasıl dersiniz? Hadi buyurun şimdi. We are lovers. Aşığız diyemezsiniz. Biz birbirimizi seviyoruz diyemezsiniz. Sevgiliyiz diyemezsiniz. Hiçbir sevgili değil. Onun için ben şunu seçtim. Bizim ilişkimiz var. Hepsini, bütün bu seçenekleri sevgili değiller çünkü. Sevgiliyiz desek başka, yani Peter'ın istediği anlam çıkmayacak. Ben Lambert'ın tam karşılığı sevgilimiz değil orada. Bizim ilişkimiz. Başka bir iki böyle ilginç, ummadık yerlerde zorluklar olmuştu. Ama dediğim gibi bilmece çözer gibiydi. Bir kere yakaladıktan sonra Pinter'ın dilini, bu yaşasın buldum diye böyle acaba Türkçe nasıl söylenir bu? Türk olsaydı Pinter'ı nasıl anlatırdı diye düşünerek yaptım çeviriyi daha çok. Ve sonra prova aşamasında da bazı yerler değişti tabii. Ahmet Eren'in katkıları oldu. Yönetmenin prova yapılırken. Çok keyifli bir çeviriydi. Çok keyif alarak.
Çeviriyi yaptıktan sonra yani kağıtta çok güzel görünüyor. Onu sahneye uygularken Ahmet Bey'in katkıları sahne diline adapte etmek açısından çok farklı şeyler çıkabiliyor çünkü çeviride büyük problemler olabiliyor.
Ben çevirirken hep bir oyuncunun kafasından düşünerek çevirdim. Oyuncu olduğum için o avantajım var. Yani bu sahnede söylenirken en doğru nasıl söylenir diye. Provada da bazı, yani biraz daha geliştirerek bazı şeyleri geliştirerek. Bazı güzellikler var.
Az değişiklik oldu sahne aşamasına.
Yani yıllar sonra insanın aklına yeni bir şey gelebiliyor. Örneğin kitapta hala şiddetli diye geçen, halbuki çok daha güzel bir kelime var. Squash. Şiddetli bir oyun değil mi squash'ta? Restoran sahnesi. Halbuki zorlu, çok daha güzel. Biraz zorlu bir oyun değil mi squash? Şimdi zorluyu kullanıyoruz ama tekste şiddetli diye geçti. Hep sonu yok.
Basıldıktan sonra bu aklına geldi.
Yani ufak ufak şeyler insanın sonradan aklına. Niye bunu yapmadın? Niye insan kızıyor?
Ben bu oyundan yola çıkarak biraz sanat-kültür ilişkileri üzerinde olayı geçmek istiyorum. Belli dönemde aşk üçgenleri, güçlük ya da değerlerle dolu bile olsalar, evrensel konular her kültürde var ama her kültürde de aşk üçgenlerine değişik tepkiler oluyor. Bizim kültürümüz aşk üçgenine, hele hiçlikle dolu aşk üçgenlerini anlayacak bir birikime sahip değil. Çünkü belli birikimler sonunda böyle oyunlar yazılabiliyor ve böyle oyunlar çevriliyor ve siz bu anlamda önceliğini yapıyorsunuz diye düşünüyorum. Hem çevirme hem oynama açısından hem de belli değer yargılarını eleştirel bir platforma sokmanız açısından. Ve sanatın da görevi bu sanıyorum. Bunu yaparken siz özel olarak ne düşündünüz? Yani oynarken ve çevirirken, önce çevirdiniz tabii, ondan sonra da oynadınız. Türk sinemasında da var böyle bir akım. Zöhra'nın başka filmleri de var. Böyle aşk üçgenleriyle ilgili farklı konular ama tema başlıca bu olay üzerinde duruyor. Sizce öyle bir konuda şey yaparken toplumun önünde mi gidiyorsunuz, toplumla birlikte mi olmak istiyorsunuz, ideolojik anlamda soruyorum. Toplumun bir parçası mısınız yoksa sanat topluma ve kültüre biraz uzaktan ve yukarıdan mı bakıyorsunuz? Bu konuda sizin fikirlerinizi duymak istiyorum.
Yukarıdan bakmak değil hiçbir zaman. Ama
şey anlamda diyorum, yani uzaklaşarak bak bu anlamda.
Anlıyorum.
Küçülterek değil.
Bir adım önünde gitmeli zaten sanat her zaman. çok da fazla önemli değil, bu sefer yabancı. Ama bizim aldatmayı yapmaktaki amacımız, tiyatro stüdyosu yola çıktığı zaman çağdaş tiyatronun, çağdaş örneklerini sunmayı amaçlayan bir tiyatro. Daha önce Türkiye'de hiç oynanmamış yazarlardan ya da çok az anlamış yazarlardan örnekler vermek. Örneğin Pinter bu kadar önemli bir yazar olduğu halde dünyada, Türkiye'de bugüne kadar oynanan oyunların sayısı 3 müydü?
5. Bizimkiyle birlikte 5.
Bizimkiyle birlikte 5. Yola çıkışımızda bu önemli bir etkenlik. Pinter çok önemli bir yazar. Betrayal çok güzel bir oyun. Ve tiyatro stüdyosunun da amaçlarına uygun. Başka neyi seçtik?
Yani böyle böylesine hiçlik üzerine kurulu bir üçgen Türk toplumuna, Türk bireyine ya da Türk izleyicisine uzaktır diye bir kaygımız olmadı. Belirli mesafeler olduğu biliniyor tabii bu konuda. Yani toplumla bu tür konular arasında belirli mesafeler olduğu biliniyor ama biz bunu bir engelleyici unsur olarak düşünmedik. Yani böyle bir şey Türk izleyicisine iletilemez diye bir kaygımız olmadı. Çünkü tiyatronun görevlerinden biri zaten pek yapılmayan şeyleri yapmaya yönelik. Bir takım engelleri, bariyerleri ortadan kaldırabilmek.
Bunun için sormuştum.
Evet, hala maalesef bunu hemen ilave edeyim, aklıma geldi şimdi. Bazı oyunları oynayamıyoruz. Yani otosansür devreye giriyor. Örneğin bugün çağdaş oyunların hepsinde küfür var. Yaşamda olduğu gibi sahnede küfür eder herkes. Ama Türkiye'de bu kadar çok küfürlü bir şeyi sahneye koyduğunuz zaman seyirciyi irite edersiniz. İster istemez de otosansürle biz böyle bir oyun seçemiyoruz abi. Çünkü seyirci irite olur ve yaptığımız işi anlamaz. Ha gene küfür, ha gene küfür, ha gene küfür diye. Sonuçta tokat gibi her küfür girişinde seyirciyi irite etmekten korkuyor. Acı ama gerçek.
Evet, yani Platon filmini seyrederken ben de son derece irkilmiştim. Sürekli küfrediliyordu. Çok iyi bir mesajı vardı. Antimilitarist bir tavırdı. Küfretmenin büyük bir işlevi vardı orada. Küfretmeleri gerekiyordu. Fakat sürekli olarak benim kulaklarımı rencide ediyordu. Sonuna kadar dayanamadım.
Bu konu çok önemli tabii, Halil'in demin değindiği.
Evet.
Otosansür tanımını biz kendimize yakıştırmıyoruz, yakıştırmak istemiyoruz ama Türk tiyatrosunda geçerli bir olgu ne yazık ki. Şimdi yalnızca cinsellik değil, din, bir noktaya kadar siyaset, bir noktaya kadar şiddet ve benzer olgular yansıyabiliyor tiyatroya.
Otorite.
Otorite.
Polis ya da askeri
Evet.
eleştirer misiniz?
Bu engeller hala aşılabilmiş değil. Çok ki bu temaların hepsinin televizyonda da oynayan filmlere son derece özgürce yansıdığını ve dolayısıyla televizyonunda bu filmleri izleyen Türk toplumunun bunları her gece belki birkaç kez gördüğünü biliyoruz ama gene de bu tiyatroya geçemiyor. Tiyatroya adım atamıyor. Böylesine büyük bir çelişki var. İşte bu çelişkinin ortadan kalkmasına katkıda bulunmak da bizim amaçlarımızdan biri.
Ben az önceki yanlış sorulan soruya yorum getirmek istiyorum. Kendileri dediler ki aşk üçgenine anlayabilecek bir birikimi yok denildi toplum. Ama ben aşkın bir üçgen değil, hatta bir doğru bir iki kişinin paylaştığı bir nokta olduğunu inanıyorum. Onu belirtmek istedim. Bir de Zuhal Hanım'a bir sorum olacak. Bu seneki Oscar'ları nasıl değerlendiriyorsunuz ve eğer imkanınız olsaydı hangi yabancı aktrisi bir filmi paylaşmak isterdiniz? Teşekkür ederim. Oscar
gerçekten Jodie Foster'ı oldukça sevdim, beğendim ama eğer benim birini seçmem söz konusu olsaydı Susan Sarandon'u seçerdim. Çünkü Thelma Lois'te olağanüstü bulmuştum. Gina Davis çok iyiydi ama Susan Sarandon çok sevdiğim bir aktris zaten. Erkek oyunculardan da Warren Beatty'yi seçmek isterdim. Çünkü Bugs'ı gerçekten olağanüstü bir oyuncu çıkarıyor.
Ayıp ettiler.
Üstelik çok değil.
Ya oynandığını duyduk. Acaba doğru mu? Herhalde Pinter istemiyormuş Türkiye'de oynanmasını.
Doğru.
Evet.
Ben özel mektup yazmak zorundayım.
Sebebi ne acaba?
Pinter'ın yani Türkiye söz konusu olduğu zaman protesto etmek için Türkiye'de hiçbir oyunun oynanmasına izin vermeyeceği söylendi bize. Menajeri tarafından. Ama sonra özel bir mektup yazınca biraz daha yumuşadı.
5 oyun oynandı demiştiniz. Bu acaba 5 oyun Betrayal'ı saymazsak 4'ü 1985'te Pinter'ın Türkiye'yi ziyaretinden önce mi?
Sanıyorum.
Evet, hepsi doğru. 85'ten beri Pinter oynanmadı sanıyorum Türkiye'de. Geçer geçer.
Ama tabii Pinter oynamıştı.
Efendim?
Ama tabii Pinter oynamıştı.
Öyle mi?
İzinsiz hocam.
Evet. Bu sözünü ettiğimiz 5 yalnızca profesyonel bağlamda.
Ben bir şey sorayım. Şimdi genelde Türkiye'de hep derler ki tiyatro seyircisi azdır. Ben bunu daha çok şeye bağlarım. Yani terör olaylarının sebep olduğu bir korkuya bağlarım. Şimdi bu tehlike gittikçe hani azaldı artıyor ama gene de yani bir yoğun ilgi var. Fakat şimdi Pinter çok ağır bir oyun yazarı. O pozlarla hani bazı postmodern yazarlar anlamsızlığı ifade etmek isteseler de Pinter tam tersine çok büyük bir anlam ifade ediyor. Fakat gene de çok ağır bir oyun. Üstelik konusu da tema açısından Türk toplumu için çok ters. Çünkü ben şöyle bir şey olmuştu. Evita müzikaline gitmiştim. Orada bir öpüşme sahnesi vardı. Ve ben yanımdaki seyircinin "aa" falan dediğimi hatırlıyorum. Hatta bir keresinde de otobüste bu aldatmalı şey vardı, ilanı. Böyle de isim mi olurmuş diye bir iki adamın konuştuğunu duymuştum. Çok tuhaf gelmişti. Ve yani şimdi kadın ağlatınca zaten çok ters tepkiler yol açıyor Türkiye'de. Buna rağmen, bunca şeye rağmen, hem Pinter'in ağır oyun yazarlığına rağmen ve oyunun temposunun ağırlığına rağmen hem de tiyatronun biletlerin pahalı olmasına rağmen ve de isminden dolayı belki de insanların ters tepki vermesine de rağmen nasıl oluyor da böyle bir turneye çıkıyorsunuz, bu ilgi nedir sizce? Sebebi ne olabilir? Bu kadar büyük ilgi olmasın.
Her şeyden
Yani ben çok şaşırdım çünkü ben böyle bir olacağını hiç düşünmemiştim. Çünkü derslerimiz Gönül Hanım'la hep böyle sohbetler ediyoruz ve biz bile çok şey yapmıştık bu konu üzerinde sınıfça Türk toplumundaki bu aşk üçgeni ve işte buradaki aşk üçgeni, Robert'ın bu kayıtsızlığı, eşlerin sürekli birbirini aldatması, kadın erkek ayrımı ki Türkiye'de bu daha çok belirgin. Feminist ismi bile Türklerde büyük yani tedirginlik yaratıyor isim olarak bile. Mesela Duygu Asena ismi bile benim bildiğim kadarıyla erkeklerde bir antipati yaratıyor. Yani bu katılım, bu ilginin sebebini siz neye bağlıyorsunuz? Ben bir şeye bağlamıyorum.
topluma yabancı bir olgu. Türk toplumunda böyle şeyler olmaz.
Ya oluyor da insanlar...
Onları yadırgar biçimde kabul etmiyoruz. Bu tür ilişkiler dünyanın her köşesinde, her yerinde, her toplumda mutlaka var. Dolayısıyla öyle bir kaygımız zaten başta yok. Birkaç tane şey saydınız. Bir tanesi biletlerin de pahalı olmasına karşı idi. Pek değil. Öbür tiyatrolara bir göz atarsanız öteki tiyatroların fiyatlarından hiçbir fark olmadığını göreceksiniz.
Bir de bu konuda başka bir şey söyleyebilir miyim? Türkiye'de tiyatro biletleri pahalı denildiği zaman benim aklıma hemen her hafta sonu tıklım tıklım dolan futbol maçları geliyor. Ve futbol biletleri tiyatrodan çok daha pahalı. Yani tiyatro biletine pahalı denmesinin nedeni biletin pahalı olduğundan değil, bence halkın tiyatroya olan ilgisizliğinden kaynaklanmış. Yoksa sanıyorum futbol maçına gittiğiniz var mı? Ben hiç ilgilenmediğim için. Kapalı tribün 70 bin lira falan galiba. 70 bin falan bir sene falan. Yani 50 bin lira bir tiyatro bileti bence hiç pahalı değil. Ucuz bir. Futbol 70 bin lira olan bir ülkede tiyatro 100 bin lira oldu. Yani ideal bir ülke. Bizde o da var.
Biz neye bağlıyoruz bunu noktasına gelirsek, belki kesin bir yargı olamaz bu ama biz bunu nitelikli tiyatro yapmaya bağlıyoruz ya da bağladığımızı düşünmek istiyoruz.
Stüdyo özel, yani stüdyo dendi mi bir usta vardır, öğrenci günü vardır. Yani bir işin mutfağı var mı? Siz de aynı şekilde göstermeyecek öğrencilere ders veriyorsunuz. Dersçikler bizim açımdan. Yoksa sadece bu servis sadece profesyoneller. Bir de oyunları nasıl seçerken bir nasıl seçiyorsunuz?
Biz üçümüz de birbirimizi 1972'den beri tanıyoruz. 20 yıllık bir dostluğumuz var. Ahmet Erendoğlu konservatuvarda ikimizin de hocasıydı. 72-77 döneminde. Ondan sonra da dost olduk. Bu dostluğumuz devam etti. Böyle bir tiyatro kurulurken çok önemli bir etkenliktir. Birbirini tanıyan ve birbirinin dilinden anlayan insanların bir araya gelmeleri. Sonra neydi? Niye tiyatro stüdyosu ve şey yapıyor? Şu anda yok. Ama umarım biraz daha havazlandıktan sonra böyle şeylere eğilmeyi tabii.
Ama ikinci prodüksiyonumuz Kan Kardeşler'de yeni mezun birçok Ahmet Bey'in öğrencileri, genç arkadaşlarımız çok nitelikli, güzel roller oynama fırsatı buldular. Hatta ödül bile aldılar.
Zaten onu göremedim.
Bence stüdyo
Maalesef.
kelimesine yüklediğiniz anlamı diğer anlamda başarmış oluyoruz ufaktan. Yavaş yavaş.
Oyun seçimi Türkiye'de daha önce hiç oynanmamış. Nitelikli ve çağdaş tiyatronun güzel bir örneği olması. Umuyoruz bir de Türk oyunu olsun ama maalesef Türkiye'de yazar yetişmiyor. Yazar sorunu var. Bu birçok nedenle var. Yetenek olmadığı için değil, yazarın yazmak için sebebi yok. Kimse bana oyun yaz demiyor. Adam sonunu ya da kadın sonunu bilmediği bir şey için niye verdiniz? Acaba kim alacak, kim kabul edecek, oynanacak mı? Repertuar kurulu ne edecek falan gibi kaygılarla oyun yazılmıyor Türkiye'de.
Sipariş üstüne yazılıyor.
Evet, o da verilmiyor. Yani sipariş verilse ya da sponsor edilse bir yazar, keşke yetenek olduğuna eminim çünkü. Yazar farklı.
Özendirme mekanizmalarının hiçbiri devrede değil. Yani bir oyun yazarını özendirecek, onu itecek, yüreklendirecek 8-10 tane yol düşünmek olası ama bu yollardan hiçbiri Türkiye'de tiyatro çevresiyle işlerini kazanmış değil ne yazık ki.
Ben çağdaşlarıyla sanskritik bağdaştırıyorum. Sizin oynamak isteyip de oynayamadığınız çok fazla kültürlü olan şeyler ekonomik kaygıdan mı kaynaklanıyor?
Hayır.
Yani sonuçta izleyici rahatsız olacak dediğinizde, yani birkaç oyundan sonra rahatsız olacak.
Yok, ekonomik kaygı değil, sanatsal kaygı. Mesajınızı, yani yaptığınız işi ulaştıramayacaksınız, iletemeyeceksiniz. Çünkü ben ana avrat küfretmeye başladığım zaman sahnede birlikte olacak seyirci. Ya söyleyecek Hatice teyzeye sakın gitme, çok küfrediyorlar diye, ya da 5 dakika sonra çıkacak oyunu. Ve ben amacıma ulaşayım. Yani sanatsal bir şey değil. Belki gişesi tamam küfrediyorlar gidelim diye, belki yanlış seyirciyi de çekebiliriz. Ama gayet aslında sanat.
Uzun bir çalışmanın ürünü ortaya çıktı. Siz baştan sona işte oyunu çevirdiniz, dolu dolu yaşamaya çalışıyorsunuz. Ve her gece aynı heyecanla tekrar yeniden başlıyorsunuz. Tabii uzun bir çalışma ve güzel bir sonuç. Bazı sanatçılar oynadıkları oyundan bir hayli etkilenirler. Sizler oynadığınız oyundan özel yaşamınıza bir şeyler yansıtıyorsunuz.
Eğer kelimeyi doğru kullanırsak, doğru tanımlarsak, hiçbir sanatçı yaptığı işten etkilenmez. Etkilenmemelidir. Etkilendiği zaman o sanatçılığı yüzünden değil, psikolojik bozukluğu olduğu için. Yani sanatçı sahnede rolünü oynadığı zaman kostümünü çıkartır ve kimse yaşamına öyle devam eder. Ay ben Jerry oynadım, bu Jerry'den çok etkilendim. Bir şey yaptığım zaman benim psikoterapiye ihtiyacım var demektir. Bunun sanatçılıkla bir alakası yok.
Peki yazarın frekansını yakalamak için onun duygularını elde etmeniz gerekir en azından. Yani onun gibi davranmak ya da onun gibi hissetmek zorundasınız. Oyunu tam manasıyla yansıtabilmek.
Anlamak zorundayım, yani onun gibi davranmak zorunda değil. Sadece onu anlamak zorunda.
Yani sadece anlamakla sahneye koymak sizce yeterli oluyor mu?
Neyi sahneye koymak lazım?
Oynamak için şeyleri hissetmek lazım bence. Yani sadece anlamak yeterli değil. Anlarsınız ama onu insanlara anladığınızı hissettiremez.
Sahne üzerinde elbette öyle. Sahne üzerinde ellerinizin gerçekten titrediği, yüzünün gerçekten kızardığı anlar oluyor. Gerçekten ağladığım anlar oluyor. Gerçekten sinirlendiğim anlar oluyor. Bu sahne üzerinde zaten oyunculuk tekniği dersinde bunları öğreniyoruz ve bunun olması gerekir. Aksi halde çok yalan, acayip bir şey olur.
Ben iş bittikten sonrasını konuşuyorum. Yani rolden etkilenmek, özel yaşamına etkilenmek diye bir şey yok.
Yani kulise çıktınız, bazı anlarda ben kulise çıktığım zaman hala ellerim titriyor olabilir. Yani ona engel olamıyorum çünkü o sahnenin duygusuyla kuliste belki onu yaşıyorum ama yani oyun bitmiş, kostümlerimi çıkarmışım, işte yemeğe gidiyorum, hala titriyorsam farklı var.
Ben arkadaşın sorusuyla bağlantıdan Cezbençik'ten farklı açıdan sormak istiyorum. Şimdi oyunu çok sevdiğiniz, çok severek oynadığınızı söylüyorsunuz, çok da severek çevirdiğinizi. Bu sadece Pinter'ı sevmek, çağdaş oyun olduğu için sahneye koymaktan öte şöyle bir yorumda olamaz mı? Çünkü aldatma, fakat burada benim rahatsız olduğum, üzüldüğüm aldatmanın kötülüğü veya nasıl olduğu değil, aldatmak değil, boşluk. Neden bu kadar güçlük, neden bu kadar boşluk yaşıyorlar, neden tatmin olmuyorlar, neden aradıklarını bulamıyorlar veya ne aradıklarını bilmiyorlar. Burada bu kadar severek oynamak, yorumlamak, seçmek, acaba sizin de böyle yaşamınızda böyle kesitler oldu mu acaba? Boşlukta olduğunu hissetmişsinizdir de bu yüzden yakınlık duymuşsunuzdur. Seçerken bu etkileri...
Benim oyunu sevme sebebim o değil. Oyun çok ustalıkla yazılmış bir oyun olduğu için ve anlatmak istediği şeyi çok ustalıkla anlatan bir oyun olduğu için çok seviyorum. Yani herkes birbirini anlatıyor. Sadece kadın kocasını, kocası kadını değil. Herkes sevgili de anlatıyor. Jerry de Emma'yı anlatıyor. Emma da Jerry'yi anlatıyor. Herkes birbirini anlatıyor. İki dost birbirini anlatıyor. Yani bu o kadar ustalıkla verilmiş ki bu ilişkilerin ve aldatmanın güçlüğü, boşluğu. O yüzden seviyorum. Yoksa bu şeyler anımsattığı için değil.
Bu günümüzde bireyciliğin, kopukluğun yaşandığı bir dönem ve çağ. Gittikçe de daha insanlar birbirlerinden kopuyor, hatta kendilerinden kopuyorlar.
Evet.
Bu çağda çok uygun bulduğumuzu da söyleyebilir miyiz? Ben buluyorum sizde.
Evet,
Kesinlikle.
kesinlikle öyle.
Yani günümüzün en önemli problemlerinden biri iletişimsizlik. Bireyler arası iletişimsizlik. Giderek birey toplum büyütebilirsiniz onu. Bu iletişimsizliğin bence çok çarpıcı biçimde anlatıldığı bir oyun aldatma. Aynı zamanda aldatma olayı, insanların birbirini aldatması, ülkesizliklerini, ilişkilerini, iletişimsizliği. Bütün bunların çok yoğun biçimde, güzel bir biçimde, güzel bir tiyatro gibi anlatıldığı bir oyun. Oyuncular için de çok olanaklı bir tekst, yorumlama açısından.
Çok zor yani çünkü dramatik inişler çıkışlar yok. Olaylar olmuyor. Kimse feveran etmiyor. Her şey son derece yalın ve düz.
Ama yerli.
Evet ama her şey yerli. Oyuncu için de
çok
en zor bu.
kazanımını isteyen bir oyun yalnız. Bazen ben böyle diğerlerde oynarken seyircinin oyuna çok fazla katılmadığını, oyunun seyirciyle buluşmuyor mu acaba diye tedirgin olduğum anlar oluyor değil. Yani seyircinin nefesinden ya da tepkilerinden anlıyorsunuz seyirci oyunu aldı mı, seyirciyle oyunu buluştu mu, buluşmadı mı? Yani seyircinin çok direkt katkısını isteyen bir oyun. Onun için gerçekten zor bir oyun.
Ve onun için dün akşamki gösteri en iyi tepkilerin alındığı gösterilerden bir tanesiydi. Sanıyorum sizlerden ne kadar bilmiyorum ama bir 30 kişi kadar mı vardı? Evet. Yani bunun için de size teşekkür ederiz. Bu hem ilginizi hem de tabii teksti bilmek ve anlamanın avantajını da kullanarak çok doğru ve güzel bir tepki aldık bu akşam. Dolayısıyla bizim için de daha keyifli bir oyun oldu.
Boşluktan bahsettiniz ve boşluğun yansıtıldığından, buna psikolojik gerçeklerse sizce Clinton'ın diyelim buna karşı bir çaresi var mı? Yani, yoksa sadece bu psikolojik gerçeği yansıtmak mı? Yani yüzeysel gerçeklik de onunla mı yetmiyor sadece?
Pinter çözümcü bir yazar değil bilimle ilgili. Hatta çözümcülükten bilerek kaçan, çözümcülüğü iten, kabul etmeyen bir yazar. Onun için tam tersi geçerli. Tiyatronun işlevinin, daha doğrusu oyun yazarının işlevinin çözüm getirmek olduğunu kabul etmiyor.
Siz filmlerinizde, kliplerinizde, şarkılarınızda şarkınızı söylerken yüzünüz pek gülmüyor. Filmlerinizde de öyle. Acaba ben mi öyle zannediyorum? Şiiriniz de uygun mu yoksa siz öyle mi yapmanız gerektiğini inanıyorsunuz? Yani şarkılarınızda.
Ben gülerim. Belki filmlerde canlandırdığın karakterler gereği. Yani bilmiyorum. Bilmiyorum.
Yerli bir oyunu tercih edersiniz yoksa yabancı bir oyunu
Benim için oyunun iyi yazılmış olması, anlatacağı her neyse onu çok açık, çok güzel bir dille anlatıyor olması, oyuncu olarak ona imkanlar tanıyor olması önemli. Ama onun için yabancı oyun, Türk oyunu nedir ayırmak istemiyorum. Özellikle şu sıralarda tiyatro stüdyosu olarak yerli bir oyun oynamayı çok arzu ettiğim sadece. Demin de söz ettiğimiz gibi öyle bir tekste henüz kavuşmuş değiliz.
Aldatmadan sonra bir oyundan bahsettiler. Sizin sanırım oynayacağınız çevrecilikle ilgili. Onun hakkında bilgi verebilir misiniz?
Fazla bilgi şu anda vermek belki doğru olmaz çünkü Projenin gerçekleşmesi bir takım parasal gereksinmelerin karşılanmasıyla ilgili. Onun için ve bu da %100 gerçekleşme noktasına henüz ulaşmış değil. O nedenle şimdi size şu oyunu yapacağız diye uzun uzun anlatıp ondan sonra yapamamak noktasına gelirsek bu pek iyi bir şey olmaz. Onun için bu işin güvencesini aldığımız zaman belki bir başka sohbette bunun üzerine.
Ben sözü biraz oyunculuğa getirmek istiyorum. Şu anda hepimizin de sinema bölümünde olduğu bir soru soracağım. Genel bir kanı var. Kamera, oyunculuktan belki bir şeyler, yani tiyatro sanatçıları kamera karşısında oyunculuklarından biraz bir şeyler kaybediyorlar ya da kaybedebilirler gibi. Bilmiyorum ne kadar kabul ediyorsunuz ya da böyle bir şey yaşadığınızda her üçünüzde de, yani özel deneyiminizi de izlediğiniz olarak oyunculuğunuzdan ya da yorumunuzdan bir şeyler kaybetme hissi kamera karşısında hissettiniz mi? Böyle bir şey söz konusu olabiliyor mu?
Kesinlikle. Yani kesinlikle.
Çünkü oyunculuğu ben ikiye ayırmıyorum. Hiçbirimiz ayırmıyoruz. Tiyatro oyunculuğu, sinema oyunculuğu diye bir şey yok. Oyunculuk oyunculuktur. Yani ya oyuncu vardır ya da yoktur. Ama sinemada oyuncusuz da olabiliyor bazı şeyler. Çünkü sonunda ipler yönetmenin elinde. Ama sinema oyunculuğu ya da tiyatro oyunculuğu gibi bir ayrım yok. Oyuncu için fark eden hiçbir şey yok.
Belki şundan kaynaklanıyor olabilir. Haz alma, belki daha fazla haz alma olabilir mi acaba? Kopukluk oluyor, seyirciyle bir şeyler paylaşmaktan bahsettiniz. Tepkiyi o anda alıyorsunuz gibi kanılar. Evet.
Benim eğer kendi fikrimi istiyorsanız ben oyunculuğu, tiyatro oyunculuğu, sinema oyunculuğu diye tabii ki ayırıyorum ama benim için sinema oyunculuğu çok daha keyifli. Yani tiyatro oyunculuğu tabii ki çok güzel ama sinemanın o insanın o kameranın bütün ayrıntıları perdeye, koskocaman bir perdeye aktaracağını bilerek bir şeyleri oynamak çok zevkli. Gerçekten çok zevkli.
Çünkü kamera çok olanaklı. Her yere götür, her şeyi yapabilirsiniz. Olanağınız fazla. Tiyatroda sadece bir sahne.
Tabii ki tiyatroda çok kendine has bir büyüsü var. Aynı bir şey
tabii.
mutlaka. Yani aslında çok ayrı şeyler gibi görünüyorsa da aynı şey sonuçta oyunculuk tekniğiyle, her şeyle ama kameranın o her yere elini sokan tavrı oyunculukta engin, sonsuz bir rahatlık getiriyor oyuncuya. Ama bir şey yaptığında söz konusu.
Pardon, bunu değinmeden edemeyeceğim. Daha önce de gazetelerde eleştirmenler değinmişti. Betrayal ilk oynandıktan sonra insanlar çıkıp en yakın pub'a hücum ettiler diye. Sanıyorum dün gece de birçok kişi bir şey içmek ihtiyacıyla çıktı. Pinter'ın özellikle vurgulamak istediği bir şey mi? Yoksa bir olağan bir yaşam tarzıdır bu. İnsan işte saat 5'ten sonra elinde içki bardağıyla olur yahut da bir kesit olduğu için mi devamlı kişilerin elinde yemekte yahut sohbet ederken bir içki bardağı oluyor.
Niçin bu kadar sık diyorsunuz? Haklı bir soru. Herkesin hemen hemen dikkatini çekiyor. Yani içilir ama bu kadar da olur mu deniyor. Tabii biz hiçbirine eklemiş değiliz. Aynı bildiğiniz gibi metinde hangi ölçüde kullanılıyorsa biz de onu yaptık. Ama bu çevredeki insanlar bunu yapar diye görmüş. Yani çok özel bir anlam yükleyerek yaptığını sanmıyorum. Bu insanlar işte kitapla, sanatla, objelerle, benzer değerlerle ilgili bu insanların dünyasında içki önemli bir yer alır diye yola çıkmış.
Buyurun.
Biz derste betrayal işlerken ağlatma temasının yanı sıra intikam temasının da belirli bir etkinliğinin olabileceğini düşünmüştüm. Mesela Jerry'nin Robert'tan sadece intikam almak için Emma'yla ilişki edilmiş olabileceğini düşünmüştüm. Siz nasıl bir yorum getiriyorsunuz?
Ne anlamda intikamı diye düşünmüştüm.
Küçüklükten beri arkadaşlar, bunu biliyoruz. Artı mesleklerinde de arkadaşlar ama aralarında ufak da olsa bir rekabet var.
Sporçta rekabet var.
Evet.
İşte yani o basıyor bazı kitabı, öteki basmıyor.
Evet.
Kitabı daha çok.
O başarılı oluyor. Onun beğenmediği bir yazar çok başarılı bir yazar.
Aralarında böyle bir çelişme hep var. Ama Emma ile ilişkiye girmesinin sebebi illa Robert'ın intikamlasını diye hiç düşünmedim. Ve böyle bir sebep yok. Öyle bir sebep koyarsak iş bir anlama bir yere bağlı. Halbuki hiçbir sebep. Bomboş bir ilişki. Ne diye bir şey yaşamışlar, ikisi de niye yaşadığını bilmiyor. Deseydik Robert'tan intikam almak için bak bir şeyler yaptı. Pinter'a tamamen aykırı bir şey oldu. Çünkü Pinter'ın vermek istediği bir şey yok. İntikam olursa bir sebep oluyor ilişki için. Halbuki Pinter'ın vermek istediği hiçbir sebep. Sadece bir gece sarhoşken bir partide kadın hoşlandı. Ertesi gün buluştular, ev tuttular ve 7 yıl akşamüstüleri buluştular. Hiç sevmiyorlar böyle birbirlerini. Onun için yani önemli bir sebep yok.
Ben onu izlerken şu duyguyu edinmiştim. İlk gece evliliklerinden bahsediyordu. Onu sarhoş olduğu gece. Sana ben sahip olmalıydım. İşte beyaz gelinliği içinde seni hatırlıyorum derken pişmanlık var. Yani belki Robert'tan daha önce davranabilirdi. Daha önce elde edebilirdi.
Bilirdi de o yani sarhoşluk anında kafasından geçmiş. Ha ben senin...
Ama kadın beyaz giymemiştim diyor. Aslında
zaten
beyaz da
beyaz
yani.
giymemiş. Uyduruyor.
Beyaz giymemiştim diyor çünkü. Hepsi bayağı bir şeyler yani.
O gece bakmış bak.
Sadece bir tekst düşündü kafasında nasıl bir anlam. Neyse.
Ondan sonra saçı kataton yapıyor. Sağdan çölüne gidiyor. Saçmalık. Yani o kadın da şaşırıyor. Böyle bir iltifat gelince bir erkekten Allah. Onun bir soru işareti. Ve sonra...
Yani Peter orada çok uyanıkça davranıp orada bile öyle bir anlam yüklenmemesi için ufacık da olsa bir anahtar vermiş. Beyaz değilmiş.
Bellek. Yoksa insan belleğine zayıflıyor her zaman. Kötüleştiği şeylerden. Orada da karşısına çıkıyor. Şahit Arapça olduğu için evet, Türkçe kullanmaya, öz Türkçe kullanmaya özen gösterdi. Hayır, hayır. Nikah şartlarında nikah. Aslında tabii nikah, işte İngilizceden onu da çevirmek zor. Best man diye bir şey yok. Onun için nikah tanımıyor.
Ben hocamızın aklına sığınarak Zuhal Hanım'a bir soru sormak istiyorum. Macar yönetmen İsmail Zabo dizimizi seyretmiş. Oyunculuk çok iyi demiş, yönetmen çok iyi demiş. Ama ben bu filmden hiçbir şey anlamadım. Acaba siz bu filmi anlayarak ve severek mi oynadınız yoksa...
Elbette.
Yani teksti okuyan arkadaşlar olarak katıldığı çekti. Zuhal Hanım yerdeki şarap bardağını devirdi ve Ceriye döndü biraz daha bana şarap verir misin dedi. Bu tekste yoktu. Yani beklenmedik bir olay karşısında orada sizin o tepkiniz çok doğaldı. Yani sırıtmadı. Bu tecrübenin verdiği bir şey mi? Yoksa bir kazandınız bu konuda.
Herhalde uzun süre tiyatro yapmanın getirdiği bir rahatlık. Sahne üzerinde böyle beklenmedik şeyler karşısında.
Şaşırma, kafallama.
Ben bir soru daha, vakitlerini fazla almayalım.
Seyircinin oyuna katılımı hakkında acaba bölgesel bir farklılık gözlediniz mi? Mesela İstanbul seyircisi ile Gaziantep seyircisi ya da Denizli'de oyuna nasıl tepki verdi?
Evet, çok değişik tepkiler geldi ama aşırı değil. Gaziantep'te örneğin kocasının aldattığını ne? Daha çok gülmeler oldu Gaziantep'te örneğin. Gülmeler değil, yani şunları hissederiz. Adam haberi var ya, karısı arkadaşıyla falan öyle şeyler. Ama en güzel tepkiyi Ahmet Bey'in de söylediği bir dün gece Ankara seyircisinden aldık. Yani bizim de anladığımız, bildiğimiz, beklediğimiz yerlerde tepkiler geldi. Yani Pinter'ın inceliğinden gelen şeyler, oyundan, bizim oynayışımızdan herhalde.
Ben genelde Ankara seyircisinin daha bilinçli bir seyirci olduğunu duyuyordum. Bunu duymak istemiştim. Değerli konuklarımıza vakitlerini bizimle çok güzel böyle bizlerle paylaştılar.
Rica ederim.